The Tape Never Lies Network.
The tape never lies. Tape never lies.
Starts now.
The tape never lies.
Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man.
Keeping it 100.
Here we go.
Trading up 100.
Yes!
What? Oh my God.
The tape never lies.
Other people drop off, but we still keep rocking.
You'll never know how good your football team's going to be until you play with maximum effort.
Keeping it 100.
Keeping it 100.
Open competition over the North and never give it back.
Smartest man.
My Chicago Bears select Justin Fields, quarterback, Ohio State.
Guess who's back? The two dudes that kept it real. Dynamic duo that you love, the smartest man and Dr. Phil. Breaking down the film, never a problem, kick it straight. Most shows focus on stats, we focus on the tape. We keeping it 100, never running east to west. We coming with that truth, cause that's what our fans expect. Cut off the freaking anchor, forward to be free. But don't you worry, Shane's got the dumbest tweets. It ain't no secret, Phil and Shane got some haters. But now them out stuck like the Jew and now and later. Debaters, frauds get kicked like Coach Tabor. Cuts had to be made, we added a barber moderator. Up and down, boys got you double checking. Sad sacks trolling like a fool drunk texting. Flexing on the truth cause you know they'll never change. Real, recognize real, that's what you get with Phil and Shane. What's what we do when we're breaking down the Bears. Fuck a play or a captain, all of the unfair. The tape never lies. The truth, you see, we laugh, we analyze, so there's no babies like Maybelline. Straight to the truth with acumen and facts. We got a sad nerd, but he's not just giving nerd stats. Car crash, big impact like Trick Sack. Every Wednesday night you got the smartest man and Phil back. Now we know you're smiling like a fat kid with fun dip. We're back better than ever and we keeping it 100.
Keeping it 100.
Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man.
Justin Fields gets outside the pocket, puts that ball perfectly where only Mooney can get it. 1 point, 2 feet.
Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man.
Keeping it 100, baby.
Keeping it 100.
Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man.
Keeping it 100, baby.
Keeping it 100.
Keeping it 100.
Birds never lie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yo, what is good, TTNL fam? You know we got a good show for you tonight. It's your girl Cherie, aka Lady Bear. We got Mike Waldman of the Ricky Scouting Report joining us tonight. So you know it's gonna be a lot of QB talk. We're probably gonna we gonna piss somebody off tonight. So we already ready for it. We ready for the comments. Speaking of pissing people off, I'm gonna go ahead and bring in my guy, Mr. Shane.
Why's it gotta be me? I'm not the dude that always does that, Cherie.
Really? You don't piss people off?
No, I just tell the truth.
So
right?
You think it's our beloved Draft Dr. Phil that pisses people off?
Definitely.
Definitely not me.
You saw how pissed off Steph was when Phil puts all his junk in that room.
She's got all the junk in the trunk instead of the junk in the trunk and the studio. It's become Steffi Pooh's makeup room and water, school, teaching supplies. Christ, I didn't even know we still had these Etch-a-Sketch things. I mean, what's going on?
What's going on, Jerry?
What's going on, Jerry? How is Cherie doing?
Cherie's doing great. I know I missed the last 2 weeks. I missed you guys.
We missed you, and you're back. Opening up the show. Claudio the barber is under the weather, but we're all under the weather. Just Claudio just decides to go on IR.
Yeah. It's like the
Not IR. He's
Mr. and Mrs. COVID Braggs. They're under the weather
COVID
too.
Braggs?
Yeah. Or Jenny's taking the brunt of that.
Aww.
Greg is symptom free and
of course.
Jenny is not. Yeah, so
well,
Jenny.
My best to Jenny.
Yeah.
Feel
Jenny
better,
and
Jenny.
Greg.
Mm.
Greg The smartest thing you ever did was marry her.
I'm not smart.
That
I
is
know,
true.
but
Only when he married Jenny.
that was
Smart.
one day. He was smart. That one day, Barbara. But Chicago Bears football. 2 wins in a row. Historic moment.
Yeah.
Against division opponents at that.
And a division opponent. My guys, like straight smoke in the house. Kerry Franklin in the house. He's celebrating. He's sending good energy to the Braggs family. Mike Breland has checked in.
What's up, Mike?
Mike, Mr. McMagpie has checked in with his guitar, and I don't know if that's a coffee
I think so.
or a hot cocoa.
I'm going with coffee.
We're going with coffee. Tampa Taylor, Tampa T, my boy,
Yeah.
coming off the bye week.
Yeah.
He
first
wrote
time
it.
in a decade.
You can clip it. Coming off the bye week, first time in a decade. Ichito, 23. He also signed with the LA Dodgers.
Yeah, and real quick, if anybody sent me any DMs on, I have like 142 notifications that Facebook lets me know that I have, but they don't let me reply to them. They disabled my Facebook account for the second time in a year.
Second time in a year, this guy's been blocked. Some of you, somebody knows somebody that knows somebody.
Yeah, but beyond that, I'm fully entrenched as a fuck
He didn't
Facebook
block
guy
you.
now.
He didn't block you.
No,
Can we get a fuck Facebook shirt?
I think so. But well, it's not like they can block me a third time, can they? So, but yeah, hit me up on Twitter if you
hit him up on
need me
Twitter. Do you do the gram much? Because I send you a lot of like alien and conspiracy stuff on the gram.
Yeah, and Phil sent me something today. Dude, check this out on Facebook. I'm like, yeah, I don't have Facebook, Phil. He's like, oh yeah.
What up, C-Spag? Yes, I fucking loved every minute of it. I was like, Madon, here we go. When Saquon fumbled the ball, what were you doing in your house? I was fucking livid. I'm like, oh my God, these motherfuckers catch every
Here we go again.
Break. These guys, could they be more? And then, you know what? Tommy DeVito, by way of Syracuse, Illinois.
Yeah. Syracuse, then Illinois, yeah.
And Jersey. He did the whole crime family. And now he's out there.
Did y'all see his agent?
Yeah. Did you see the hoodies that they're selling here in New York?
I might wear one of those. To Lambeau Field.
Yeah.
I would totally wear it. What up, Mookie Hill? Cherie's old friend. Bullets in the house. This is for Jim Larris and my romper room thing. They say hello to TTNL. I say hello to them. I haven't been on Facebook in 7 years, says Christian Solid. As a rock. Yes.
Neither have I, Christian. I don't
did love DeVito putting down, but yeah, he looks like someone sent me a great meme of DeVito's agent, and then they put what's his name? Uncle Vinny.
My cousin Vinny.
Yeah, my cousin Vinny. They put the courtroom scene when
it was Ivan. Ivan.
That was Ivan.
Yeah.
That was a great one, Ivan. With this is DeVito and his agent negotiating with the Giants.
New deal. Yeah.
Oh my God. This is what I love about football. Stories like that. Just think about how many Bears fans would be like, DeVito ain't nothing for us. What do we do? Then the guy goes in, I love DeVito. Get rid of Justin.
Oh
That
God,
could be-
the flip flopping is
Oh,
crazy.
Oh my god.
That's one thing you're not going to get here is the flip flopping. Right after the game, we've not changed, and we still haven't changed. The tape might be worse for these truths that we spoke on BHL. And I know it gets everybody so fired up, and it's like at this point it's disgraceful. At this point, I'll just keep it 100 with you. If you're debating a quarterback and you're going the greatest of all time or your own team and you start flip-flopping or you bring a race card into the game, it's obviously fucking ridiculous. You shouldn't even be in a conversation if you're bringing race into it. This network has stood against that 100 out of 100 times. So if you're going to be critical of a quarterback who happens to be white, I don't think I'm pulling any race cards out in regards to it. Neither way. If the quarterback is black, if the quarterback was Moses Moreno and Hispanic, don't give a fuck. The tape is the critical source. The tape is the critical source. It ain't the color. And all these little fucking trolls running around, running their mouths, talking shit because you're analyzing the truth.
Poor Waldman's been in the green room for 3 seconds, and the first words he hears are these little fucking trolls out there.
It's disgraceful. In fact, our guest tonight went on a rant, his first episode here, talking about the complete shit show that the NFL has been for the black quarterback, and was talking about
so true
serious issues, right? And he got shit for talking the truth then. So to be on the other side and criticizing a quarterback that has been nothing in the realm of consistent shouldn't ever bring any kind of race talk into the conversation. And I'll just be the captain obvious. The fact that I have to explain it, like you're saying, is ridiculous. And the fact that if I'm sitting here and saying Caleb Williams is a quarterback that I would love to take with the number 1 pick, last time I checked, Caleb Williams happens to be an African-American kid. That's mic drop moment. Let's get it. Let's get it together. Why do I always bring it up? Because it's all over the place, according to
Ocean's not on social media anywhere, clearly.
Because it's all over. You know what the color that I want to talk about? Blue, orange, and white. That's the only one. The jersey matters to me. The jersey. So take your fucking race cards and run your little fucking dumbass podcast into the ground where it belongs. Because it's a joke. I sit here and raise 2 beautiful children that happen to be biracial. And I've dealt with so much shit in my life you don't even know. So to stand there before anybody, I'm going to be the last guy tolerating that bullshit on Shane. I mean, Cherie, she doesn't deserve any of that shit. You running TTNL into that? Please. Go find another. There's one thing. All orange sucks. I will fucking tell you that right now. I do have a problem with that.
That's the only color you white.
I hate the all. I would rather go all white. But yes, I got that mini rant. Cherie and Shane, I think they did it on purpose. They got me, dude. X, Twitter, whatever the fuck it's called now, is a fucking shit show of, what did you guys call it?
Oh, it's very toxic.
Toxic.
Right
That
now,
was the word.
Yeah.
Time to dump it. Time to dump it. Dump
I don't open it up and see Waldman playing his saxophone. I just fucking turn it off and I move along.
Well, We got a great show tonight. We're going to break down a hell of a lot more than that. But I just wanted to bring that truth because Cherie and Shane got me fired up with the toxic bullshit. And if you're putting TTNL in that margin or chapter that you're trying to write an insight, which has done many times, clip a little clip, manipulate it. Like, this shit is real. Go watch Dogma. Watch that movie. Talk to me about politics. I've always said there's no place for politics in football. And every fucking guest that played for the Bears comes on here and said it was all about politics there. Why do you think we still have Eberflus as a head coach? Oh, they won 2 games in a row. Good. Let's open up Club Dub. What would Matt Waldman do? We won 2 games in a row. We lost 14 straight games. We're opening up Club Dub like we're going to the NFC Championship. God, it's embarrassing. Anyway, we have breaking news. We can no longer play Work That Ass for Daddy, and I know Matt Waldman's pissed about that.
Yep.
But they copyright claimed it, and we no longer can play his intro music, which sucks. Because Back in Black, sampled by KRS-One, called the Dope Beat. You got a dope beat? I got a dope beat. That song can no longer be played, or they'll copyright claim us.
By the way, this was a false report, Steve.
This was a false report.
Yeah, not true.
Listen, I love this guy. You know him from the rookie scouting. Let me get a beat for this. Yes. I know this guy. He's got the greatest voice on the network aside from Lawrence, the voice of TTNL. He plays the sax. He breaks down rookies that are coming into the league at every skill position better than Ben Franklin would break down a Declaration of Independence. He is the wordsmith, the detail monger. He's one of the best human beings I know, just authentic, truthful, and compassionate. And that's how he scouts, with an authentic eye. You're never going to get a flip-flop from this guy. Like Jay-Z said, let's bring him out from the rookie scouting portfolio. Our guy, Matt Waldman. There he is. There he is.
Hey, fellas.
Hey,
Cherie.
Hi, Matt.
You came into my rant, Matt. I'm sorry. I was fired up.
I could see that, but hey, that's cool. I mean, and I appreciate the intro, and I don't need an intro, but I appreciate what y'all did.
You're getting a new one, buddy. We were
Getting
talking
all
about it
new
today.
The new year is going to bring new intros.
Well, that's all good. It's always good to be able to join you guys, and thank you so much for having me once again. We'll have a good time talking Bears football.
Yeah,
Anything else that comes to mind, I guess.
We figured we might be in the market for a new punter, Matt. So that's why we went out and got you for tonight.
Oh, wait, there's a okay.
Yes. It's odd, Matt, real quick, because I don't want to turn the chapter on that, but it's very odd in this day and age that you can't be critical of certain players. And do you find this for you as you cover the mass of the draft? But it seems like in Chicago, it's like you can't talk negatively about Justin Fields. And I've heard this from people that are in the media, in the beat, reporting they're nervous about it because then public perception is a certain way. It's just have you ever seen this before in your time writing?
Oh, all the time. But
Awesome.
it's all the time. It's right now we're just in a contentious society where it's basically you have people on one extreme or the other, and it's not necessarily that people are extremists, but their ideas can be a little bit more extreme because social media is so magnified. I mean, so you talked about X or Twitter. I don't have this problem that most people have about the toxic environment, and I understand it's there. But, one of the things I try to do with my readers a lot of times is show them how to use lists and how to filter everything in a way that you can basically create your own community without ever seeing that shit.
So true.
And so I don't have a problem with it because I don't see a lot of the stuff that goes on, though I know that it's there. Occasionally you get annoying stuff, but what I would say is that all social media is a big magnifying glass that blows. It's like when you put it over, if you put it over, a piece of grass, or if you're a meaner person, an ant, and you basically can start a fire with it. Okay. Social media is that magnifying glass. So when you look at you have to be really careful about how you state things, and sometimes you can, even as careful as you are, people are going to comment on it anyway. Oh, yeah. And if you're in media where you're on TV or radio, and you don't have a lot of time to give any nuance to what you're discussing, then then it's hard. It is scary for that person to be able to bring that up. Because when I talked about Justin Fields pre-draft, I basically talked about how he needed to be on kind of a Josh Allen plan. And I talked about how he wasn't the best processor of information on the football field. But I qualified that in great detail to say, doesn't mean he's not smart. We're going to talk about book smarts versus field smarts. And we're going to talk about how Alex Smith might have been the most book smart guy, but, was slow as molasses at processing information. Whereas Brett Favre may have, basically had one rock hanging halfway out of his ear for a brain,
I think what Matt is trying to say is he hates white quarterbacks. Is that what you're saying, Matt?
There you go. That's how a good social media host would probably do this. Right? Exactly. So, that's the thing, is that if you don't like nuance, then social media is for you. If you do like it, then hopefully you click on links to what people are posting and actually read what's going on.
I think what you probably have to run into a lot, Matt, is if you're talking about running backs, and let's just say you don't like the running back from Wake Forest, then the Wake Forest fans come in. And it's like, you're a hater, and
they've been doing. I can remember when I said I didn't think Kirk Cousins was. I thought Kirk Cousins was a little bit too impulsive with some of the decisions that he made early on in his career, and people the Michigan State people would come after me. It's always that way. Or somebody remembers that I said Marcus Mariota was robotic, and I remember seeing something after his first game against the Buccaneers where he threw the same amount of touchdowns as Will Levis, and said, and they just wanted to rub it in, and it's like, that's how that goes. But it's just one of those things that we're in a society where everything on media is very reactive. And if you want to get, if you really want to gain an understanding of a subject, you can't just hang on social media as your primary source. It can be a source. It just can't be the source. And and you just have to have, a thick skin and play the long game. I've been doing this 19 years. So when those, you suck, Marcus Mariota is the best quarterback that's ever come down the pike. Well, things sometimes, work out when you play the long game. So,
who's laughing now, assholes? Right?
Pretty much, that's kind of, but generally, people understand. And I think that as long as I won't mention who it is, but I have a friend who has been in this business for a while, and they're always like, I hate social media. It's so awful. And I get it, but they're also the same type of person that comes online and says, if you believe this, or if you think this, you're a fucking idiot. And I'm like, well, you're not going to win friends and influence people doing that. I don't care whether I agree with you or not. I might think you're right. They're all fucking idiots if you believe that. But I'm not going to say that's my business. And I'm not going to say that. And I might end up being the fucking idiot for believing that 5 years from now. So I don't know. I try and stay in my lane. And when I don't, I'm prepared for that stuff. I mean, I had somebody, I'll end it with this. I had someone call me out in major media because they buy my work and they follow me and buy my work, and they wanted to let everyone know that they buy my work despite the fact that that I don't follow them, and they surmise that I don't follow them because of what happened up in Minnesota back in 2020.
Oh, geez.
Okay, which as someone who has black family and raised 3 biracial children and has that would basically be saying you're an ignorant fuck and don't know what you're talking about and know nothing about me. I didn't say it that way, but that was other people were texting me and going, did he just really do that? And the reason I stopped following him, and I've never said it, and I'm not going to mention his name, is because when all the stuff was going on with George Floyd and everywhere else, in this country, I lost a shit ton of followers for talking about speaking my truth and sharing my experiences and having that thing. But I didn't go on social media every day and say how many followers I lost for doing something that I just believed was right. Exactly. And, that person was doing that, and it made me sick, and I stopped following them because I realized they turned that all into about them as opposed to about the cause that they believed in, and trying to promote communication and promote knowledge and promote compassion and those types of things. So when that fucker decided to say that, I didn't tell him why, but if I do ever see him personally, I will definitely verbally make a grease spot out of him and let him know privately why that was the case. And then if we want to go a little further than that, we can do that too. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I just think in this great sport, which is the greatest sport, if you bring race into it, you're doing it wrong. Those hundreds of or years of owners being completely ignorant affected them, affected their team, affected outcomes. It wasn't till people had an understanding of truth that the game is bigger than anybody. And that's where this has always been for me. It's like,
but you're all about sport, and this is about entertainment now. And there's a lot, and you want to entertain. I'm not saying you all aren't entertaining by any stretch of imagination, but we all want to be entertaining to some level. But is it at all costs? Is it to be entertaining by any means necessary? And the answer is no. And I think that a lot of people cross that line because the money's good, the pressure's high, and they don't have the boundaries that they need to say, nah, I'm not doing that. And they've sold out to some extent, whether they know it or not.
Well said. I'm sorry. I had no idea. I was working with little kids running football speed drills and watching them. And then I came home and Cherie and Shane were telling me this. And I'm like, listen, I'm always going to speak the truth. I don't.
It didn't just start today. I mean, it's been
going toxic.
Yeah.
It's just getting worse with as time progresses.
Yeah, you throw in quarterbacks in with it, and then it's just.
And I'm sure people are getting worse. So I was outside at the dog park a couple hours ago and then cooked and forgot that. All right. So but the
scarf was on.
Yeah, scarf was on. I'm like, why is it so hot in here? And I was like, I'm not that pissed off about all this stuff, but I'm getting old. But I mean, this is one of those situations where, I mean, at the end of the day, especially with Justin Fields, it hasn't worked out.
Right.
And it's not working the way people expected. And now people are, when they're seeing their situation where it feels like the team's stagnant or drowning or just however you want to, whatever perspective they have, they're gonna, there's a feeling of desperation as to where to point the finger, and maybe point the finger at anybody and everyone. It's kind of like if you're It's like if you're stressed out in the DMV, and you have to deal with people at the DMV, you're probably going to go off on everyone, even if it's only one person, or it may not even be anyone who was there. It was the person who wrote the letter that got you fired up, So,
well, what gets me, Matt, and Phil and I have talked about this a little bit, is the division that I've seen with this is it's almost, and this isn't just a Justin thing, but that's where we're at right now, is people are drawing a line in the sand, and it's almost like they're going with a specific player against the team that they've rooted for 40, 50 years. And I said that's where it's different for me. I mean, I knew when the Bears signed Mike Glennon, I was fucking pissed, but I wasn't, you know what I mean? And Phil and I told Phil, he's like, "You're fucking lying." I'm like, "No, I'm not lying." They're saying the Bears are going to sign Mike Glennon, but you still stayed devoted to your team. But holy shit, I don't know, maybe we're just all overreacting, but man, this one feels really, really different than what we've dealt with in the past.
And maybe this isn't the same thing, but I might be able to relate as a Browns fan, growing up as a Browns fan, and it being as long as it's been that they've been a Super Bowl, that they've never gotten to a Super Bowl. At least you've been to a Super Bowl and have had a dominant team. Even if it was for a short period of time, whereas Cleveland around that same range just afterwards came very close, and then watch crazy shit happen, and then see teams that they knew they could have just wiped the floor with in the NFC, win Super Bowls. Yeah. So when that happens and that time goes on, I know as a Browns fan, it was easy to, especially with where it went, which is that you feel like this ownership is inept. They don't care about us. Modell took the team and left, showed that he didn't care about the fans. Whereas the Bears, the front office has been so bad, and the things that you guys have talked about whenever I come on the show with the executive leadership is so bad that it engenders that same feeling. We don't care about the fans. We just care about making money. And when that happens, you start to look around. You start to feel like that your trust has been betrayed by the team, and that your loyalty isn't earned. And so when that happens, you do look around. I mean, I'll admit, when the Browns were gone, certainly I just found another team to root for a while, and I just picked a couple teams to do that. But when the Browns came back, I didn't want to root for them. I couldn't root for the Ravens. Certainly wanted to. They were, everything about them. They still my team in terms of philosophy, the way they play. They're tough. They're
a team.
They're reasonably smart. They're a team.
Moved your team.
Yeah.
Imagine the Bears just moved away and they changed the name to the Exterminators.
Exactly. The only thing, the problem is that the person who moved it, you hate their guts. So
a lot of us do.
Yeah. So when, when something happens and you look at a decision you don't agree with, look, I'll say it. When they drafted Baker Mayfield, I was like, yep, I'm ready to just be a Ravens fan. I'm ready to go. Let's do this. And then they drafted my favorite player in the second round, of Nick Chubb. And I was just like, well, I guess I'm going to have to stay. They dragged me back in. So, but that's it. That's that. And I think a lot of people feel that way, especially now, too, that people don't live in the same place that they grew up. Now they think, they have more choices, and loyalty is a different animal than what it was. It was almost like you had to be loyal or you were awful, if you weren't. Now it's kind of more like free agency. You kind of have a little more choices because the world is a smaller place.
Oh,
now.
Shit. Phil and I have people coming after us daily. They're like, wait, you motherfuckers aren't from Chicago and you're talking about the Bears? Yeah. I'm like, no, Phil's from Connecticut. I'm from New York. Fuck you. We'll talk about the, you know what I mean?
I met a Browns fan at a party that one of my wife's friends, friends of ours that we go to this Christmas party, and I met a guy from Cleveland, and you would have thought that like we were long lost cousins, basically because of that whole thing. He grew up there for a little bit, but grew up all over the place, but stayed loyal to that team. And he's a salesperson. Somebody said that his company was like screwing things up horribly, and he knew, and he was trying to fix it. And he goes, "You're good. Why do you stay?" He goes, "You're so loyal to what's going on." He goes, "Look, the guy was from Toledo who said this to him, and he goes, I'm a Cleveland Browns fan." He goes, "That's all you needed to say. I understand." So Bears fans understand that too, but it doesn't mean they're not tested.
Oh yeah,
we're tested all. It was funny because I was driving my sons and I picked up their buddy, and we were talking. I don't even know how it came up, and I was like, "Well, what team are you a fan of, Drew?" And he's like, "I like the Chiefs." And I go, "Oh, you've jumped on the Chiefs bandwagon." And he's like, "No, I like them since I was little." He's 9, mind you.
Yeah.
And I go, "Okay." And Tate and Devin are like, "We're Bears fans. We always cheer for the Bears no matter what." Because he was like, "We don't jump on bandwagon." And they were just repeating what I've said to them. So I was like, this is good parenting moment. I should videotape this.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law wouldn't agree, but I've taught them, like, okay, you love Joe Burrow. You can cheer for Joe Burrow, but you're a Bears fan. And that's really where I have been on the train since Walter, and will continue to be this way.
Gotta use it as a teaching.
My
son's 12, and we get beat, lose 14 in a row, and he looks at me. He's like, "Why did you do this to me?" And I'm like, "Listen, you're not changing." His friends are wearing a Mahomes jersey or a Lamar Jackson jersey. I'm like, "This is who we ain't changing."
He's got a DJ Moore jersey.
Yeah,
look, it's all
gonna break through at some point.
I'll just say this: I have a ton of different hats in my closet, and I wear them out all the time. And people will go. I just look at it this way: people go, "Oh, you're a Packers fan?" I'm like, "No, I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, but I just happen to have this hat. I like this hat, or I got this hat because I visited Lambeau Field. Oh, you're an Eagles fan? No, not at all. That's just one of those things that
Matt
I love.
Literally named the 2 worst teams in my fucking life: the Packers and the Eagles.
Yeah, but that's the point. It's like, I even had a Steelers hat, and I'm a Browns fan. Now I did rip the thing up on air in front of a couple of Steelers fans on a podcast that co-hosts of mine who are Steelers fans. But seriously, it's that kind of thing. I don't want to get my Browns hat dirty. Maybe I want to do yard work in the Steelers hat where I get it nice and muddy with all that Georgia clay, sweat it all up, wipe my so that kind of thing.
I don't think I could do it.
I can't wear another team.
I can't wear another team's.
Well, that's good.
I'm just being I could. My uncle was the coach of the Browns. He would send us Browns hats. I just couldn't wear it.
Yeah.
Jets hats.
My freshman year of college, my girlfriend at the time, her mother bought me a Buffalo Bills comforter. And I'm like, she's like, "It's a fucking blanket. It's winter. It's wintertime. It's cold." I'm like, I'm not built that way.
You guys could wear a Green Bay Packers toilet seat. I know you could.
I can't do anything like that.
No.
Listen, Matt, my father is as rabid about baseball as I am with football my whole life, and my mother has been a New York Yankees fan her whole life, and my father was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan, now LA Dodgers fan. And my dad was at work one day, and when he came home, my mom put me in a Yankees jersey, and she went grocery shopping after he got home, and he cut that fucker off my body and lit it on fire in our driveway. True story. So that was the way that I grew up.
Benjamin's understands exactly. He would sit on a Green Bay.
He could do
toilet
that.
Seat.
Yeah. It would have to be in my house, and I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But my former friend thought he was going to be funny, and when I was at work coming home, he's like, "Yeah, we'll put a Packers onesie on one of the twins." When they were big. Steph, to her credit, knew, "No, Phil will fucking lose it. I do not want to. And she knew. And I was like, come on. Is this motherfucker that dumb? Is my exact quote that you would do. Like, I wouldn't do that to any other person.
Sure. Of course
their
not.
kid. I wouldn't put a Bears shirt on a Packer fan's kid. You know, I could joke about it verbally, but never do that. But he was trying to do it. She's put an end to that. That's how rabid I am. So when I hear someone, to Shane's point, say, you guys aren't from Illinois, how could you be speaking? It's like, what? Shut up.
That makes me even more of a Bears fan as far
all
as I'm
over the world.
You know?
Could you imagine how hard it is to be in another state where every weekend the New England Patriots were holding another Super Bowl trophy up?
Yeah.
Right, Matt?
Yeah.
Like, that's a fan. I stayed loyal to my team.
Yeah.
I could have snuck in the corner of the New England.
Only person I could read for years was Hub Arkish in the fucking Bear Report. That was all I'd get. Can you imagine how crazy that had to be?
Yeah.
Hubba, hubba, hubba.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's one of those things where, look, if you're a fan, you decide. I just look at it as you decide you're going to be a fan, and you know, stay loyal. If you have a good reason for leaving, you believe that you just can't root for that team anymore, I'm going to respect that. If you're going to stick with that team that you go to,
yeah,
you know,
that's
you know,
the caveat.
You know, if you're going to stick with it, and I don't mean that you would not have to stick with it for the rest of your fucking life, but there better be an equally good reason for you to leave again, with that in mind. I mean, I think that's probably where you look at that. It's not, you know, and there's a difference between being a bandwagon person and being someone who's committed. You know, and there's reasons why you can look at something and say, yeah, they screwed the fan base over. They destroyed the team. You know, they pulled the team out of my city. Yeah, that's the time you can say, I'm getting out of here. You know, that kind of thing. You know, but bad years, 1 or 2 bad years, 5 or 6 bad years. For some people,
what about 3 or 4 decades?
Well, 3 or 4 decades. That's where I was about to go. For some people, 3 or 4 decades. I mean, look, I tried to get away. I had, you know, I liked being a Seahawks fan for a little while when Marshawn Lynch got traded there. I liked before that being a Titans fan when, you know, when Eddie George and Steve McNair, my all-time favorite player is Steve McNair when he was there. But I remember watching a Steelers game on Monday night with Johnny Manziel and watching Manziel fuck it up and being so pissed off. And I realized, I'm still a Browns fan. Yeah. This still pisses me off more than watching anything else that I've seen because I still have passion for that team, you know? And I think that that's the thing is that some people aren't just honest with themselves either. Like you got to be honest with yourselves too about why you're leaving. Because you may really shouldn't leave. Maybe you should just stick with it.
I was at that point when the Bears had that press conference with Nagy and Pace in their last season before it, and they were using the word collaboration like 50 times or whatever it was. And it just was so disheartening. And they were coming from this arrogant place of talking down to the fans that it was crushing me. That this shit show is never going to work. You're doing the wrong thing. You're about to pick another quarterback. We're leading up to the draft. We need to clean house. And that was the year they drafted Justin Fields. And it just, the Fields got us so, the quarterback, the Fields getting Justin got us all so excited. It brought us back into life, put new life into us. But now I feel like I'm in that same place. I'm just in another, what was that show? The Twilight Zone. I feel like I'm there again now with this coach. And now you can't be critical of the quarterback. It's all the coach's fault. It's totally, I would put a lot more weight on the coach. When I look at Justin Fields, and Shane and I were talking about this, there's throws that you have to make as an NFL player, and he just doesn't do it. And it becomes disheartening because you are in a place where you want them him, number one, to shine, and the football team to feel the glory of that. Whereas it's just not happening right now. And I know they're running the wrong offense for him. They do the opposite of what I would do. Like, build an offense that caters to him. They're doing, this is our offense. He needs to be like Tyson Bagent. And that vibe happens every Sunday. And now when he does something electric, everything for fans has to be erased. Like, no, he does no wrong. Look at that. He scrambled for 28 yards.
Well,
and I'm like, well, there were
Their
7
bar
guys
is
open.
set so low. That's what I've tried to tell fans. If he misses a layup, don't say every quarterback in the league misses layups. I understand that, but there's consistency there that he's missing layups, a lot of layups, week after week after week. And he's talented, Matt. We all know that he's talented. Sometimes the timing just sucks because you're coming to the point, May 4th, 2024, you got to guarantee this guy $25 million for the 2025 season.
And there we have the root issue.
Exactly.
Because
it's finances.
Because the root problem, as we all know, is this. You drafted a quarterback. You didn't give him the support he needed, Chicago organization. You didn't give him an offensive line worth of crap.
Yeah.
You gave him a coordinator who was not even worth the offensive line.
Right.
And you didn't give him surrounding talent in terms of the weapons in the passing game that he needed to have. And then when you finally started to make strides, well, you already screwed him over for a good year and a half. So that's already going to be lodged in a young player's mind. Number two, your line still hasn't gotten better to the extent that it needs to. You've made one change to your, wide receiving core that's made the difference right now. Maybe some of those other guys that you're going to bring along are going to get there, but DJ Moore was the immediate change. Okay.
Right.
Great pick. Loved it. But this is the thing. It's already too late. It was too late when you fucked up by not getting the infrastructure around him year one and then rushed him in.
Number one.
That was
what we're talking about. Collaboration.
Yeah.
They did it with
Nagy.
We went right through this, Matt, and this is what they've been consistent with. Dick Geron's last year, they draft Rex Grossman.
Yeah.
And then you switch coaches into year two, and then you trade for Jake.
Then you've turned it into a clusterfuck because what you've done politically is going, hey, we're committing to someone who's going to be the figurehead of our organization, but we're letting you off scot-free because you didn't have any input in this, and you can sit there and bitch and moan to the executives about how this wasn't your guy in the first place. Give me my guy. And then you have a pissing contest about it oftentimes because what happens is that you're saying, the coach can go, look, if you guys gave me who I wanted, if you had given me a choice, if you had let me start, this wouldn't be a problem. Well, they said, well, if you actually worked on him with these things, well, what happens oftentimes, because I had a scout say this to me last month. He goes, you nailed the Laporta evaluation in Detroit down to the, and he said, I laughed my ass off when I read it again because it said, hopefully the coach and the GM don't get in a pissing contest over how to use Laporta, because Sam Laporta, being a smaller tight end, you could envision how coach goes, my system needs a 265-pound behemoth who can block in line really well and take on defensive ends and strong side linebackers. That's not Laporta, not on that level. And you could see how he would go, I'm going to bulk up Laporta to 260. Yeah. He's not going to play well. He's going to wind up on special teams, but I can look at the GM and go, see, I fucking told you that he wasn't good. and all that was a pissing contest. So here we are, and it's like now I just look at it and go, we can criticize Fields, and he's deserving of criticism just as he is of praise for the things that he does well and the things he doesn't do well. That's fine. That should not be the issue, but people are making the issue out of it because they're just frustrated that the root issue is that now you got to pay him the real money to keep him, and he hasn't done enough. And whether it's because he needs more time to develop and you don't have the infrastructure to give him to help him do that, or you've run out of patience because now you see where you want to go and he doesn't quite fit that. Whatever impasse you're at, it was your own doing, because he's going to wind up probably in his hometown, not far from where I live in Atlanta. That's where I think everybody thinks he's going to be. I never ask anybody what they think. I just say it. People are like, yeah, that makes sense. He's going to wind up in Atlanta with Arthur Smith, and Arthur Smith is going to go, I had Marcus Mariota once, and this guy's way fucking better than Marcus Mariota is. And he's going to wind up being good. And the Bears fans are going to be pissed off because they're going to see, we should have never gotten rid of Fields. But the problem isn't whether you should have gotten rid of him or not. Right. The problem is, did you give him the support in a timely manner and have a plan to develop him? Because Brock Purdy, who I've supplied his scouting reports to his quarterback coach pre-draft, okay, Brock Purdy was one of those guys that you look at and you say, when Dan Orlovsky somebody got mad that I think it was Dan Orlovsky got mad, or somebody got mad at him for saying Mac Jones, Brock Purdy, it wouldn't have been that. It's tomato based if you put him in the same system. And I would say there's some truth to that. Okay. If you put Justin Fields in a system to what he does well and gave him an all-world offensive line, or at least two guys who belong on an offensive line to defend the planet in San Francisco. You give them an all-world tight end and a creative coach and the best running back in the league, arguably, or one of the best.
Yeah.
You're good. Mac Jones, if he had that starting point, he's fine. But when you take Mac Jones and you put him in an offense where the coach is a defensive coach
how did it go wrong?
We've come to find out that Lawrence Taylor basically used to say all the time, shut the fuck up, Bill. And, let me do what I do and stop being the patrol. And Bill was certainly, he's a great coach and schematically in a lot of ways. But the idea that you take Matt Patricia and put him as an offensive coordinator in year 2 for your quarterback who has promise, and then you get let him get the shit kicked out of him. You got to remember, you can be a tough dude, okay? And I'm sure a lot of veterans out there will tell you that they went through boot camp. Look, I've raised a Marine and 2 Army, okay? And they will tell you that there's lots of tough folks out there who go to boot camp, they come through, they do just fine. Then they end up in Mosul, or they end up walking through streets in a hostile place. And after repeatedly having something bad happen to them, they come back home where it's safe. And it seems like everything's safe. Everybody tells them it's safe. And then they hear fucking firecrackers on the 4th of July and they piss their pants. Okay. And I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm saying it out of respect that it's just the facts that shit happens. Okay. Well, it's not nearly on that level of gravity, okay, that I'm making the comparison, but it still applies. If you're Trent Edwards, who played at Stanford, and you faced USC's all-world team, and you're getting the shit knocked out of you game after game, and you have offensive linemen literally getting in a fight in the middle of a play because of a missed assignment, and you're still doing well, and the Bills draft you and you look promising, and then Adrian Wilson hits you just right and knocks you silly.
Yeah.
And you are never the same in the pocket again, no matter what you try to do. There's a point that if you don't give quarterbacks the support and the ability for them to build trust and rapport, then you don't have fast processing. It won't get any faster because you have basically these impediments that you've created further. You may have even created a wall for them that they can't get over. And now they're good at running the offense in practice. They're good at helping your other quarterbacks get prepared. They're good at being able to come in games and clean up when everything's going okay. But they're not going to win games for you anymore because that competitive toughness is gone. And that's, yeah.
Go back to your Cleveland Browns. That was Justin Fields' first career start at sacked 9 times.
Yeah.
The game plan was, I mean, at the time, my 10-year-old son could have come up with a better game plan. And this is the kid that you traded up for.
Yeah.
You gave up a future first-round draft pick and essentially said, fuck it. Go out there. Josh Lucas, the Bears' former director of player personnel, was
even if they were going to put him out there, Shane,
right?
The plan was so putrid and
the blocking schemes were so awful. That was unbelievable.
It was, but
Josh
Lucas
Charles Leno with no help versus
one-on-one
the best defensive end. He just took Leno and threw him like a fucking Pop-Tart in a toaster. That's how bad it was.
To Waldman's point, though, Josh Lucas just spoke on this. He said, he said, did that very first game, did it ruin Justin Fields' career? I can't tell you that it didn't put him on the pathway to be in ruin. Just like you said.
Yeah, and there's and here's the point of where maybe he can emerge from that tunnel. He may not.
Jim Plunkett, because my father always talks about him.
That's a great example.
Go ahead,
great example, absolutely great example, and he's the primary number one example. I'll give you a few others. Okay, Rich Gannon.
Yeah,
Rich Gannon spent 3 years on a bench, and then he was an interception machine for the Vikings. Then he was with the Chiefs for a little bit. It was year 12, I think, when he actually became a viable starting quarterback in the league. Geno Smith was a first-round pick in one of the most inept organizations in football with the Jets, and it took him years to finally he probably needed that bench time to kind of clear his head and regain his confidence to be decent last year. Obviously, things have adjusted. He hasn't played as well this year, but you've got those guys. Another one, Steve Young. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Steve Young talked about this today.
Steve Young is my favorite example because everybody thinks about MVP winner, multiple Super Bowl winner. This great quarterback who could run his ass off. And Steve Young will be the first one to tell you, me sitting behind Joe Montana for those several years was necessary because I needed to relearn how to tie my feet to route progressions. I didn't know how to do that. If he were with another team and they plugged him in, like they plugged him into, say Atlanta during that era and put him in Atlanta where they had no offensive line, and he just got the shit knocked out of him like he did in Tampa after he was in the USFL, and he was just a impulsive running quarterback, he probably would never have even sniffed an all-star game, much less the Hall of Fame. But this is the other problem. I'm a big believer in this more and more every year. You need time to transition from college to pro. Sit most of the guys. Not saying you have to do this with every player. Guys can prove you wrong, and if they're the exception and you feel like they are, let them play. But if I were an owner or a GM of a team, I'd be pounding the table hard to say, look, do you fucking want him for 4 years at the money you're paying him and then you're going to go get somebody else? Or would you rather have a guy who's grateful to how well you helped him develop? You have a winning organization around him and he's willing to defer some of that big money or give up some of that big money to help build a team around him because he has the right frame of mind and he can fucking play. And when you give a guy time to, let's see, learn how teams prepare each week in the NFL, learn the greater complexity of defenses and offenses and how they disguise things, get used to the quality of athlete that you're playing with and facing across the board. Also, I don't know, your 20 21, 22, 23, how about
Right.
fucking learning what city you live in
Yeah.
and know where you are and how to maybe buy a house, maybe how to set yourself up to become a professional athlete who, in terms of time management, work ethic, what to work on, who to hire to do the work for you. Because as Kyle Shanahan said, that's been a point that a lot of us have been making for years. They don't develop coaches. They don't coach up quarterbacks. They expect the quarterbacks to learn the techniques and concepts on their own and then apply them to the game plan. And
because they don't have enough time.
they don't have the time. Yeah,
don't have
because
the
these
time.
playbooks are so fucking thick. In Alabama, you can say we're going to out-athlete you.
Exactly.
You know,
Right.
this guy jumps high, runs fast. Oh, he runs a couple of good routes too, so we're going to apply that too. And they're continuing to learn. If you get a Jerry Jeudy, you know, or a Waddle or whoever, fine. But the thing is that you give them that. Plus handling their family, because suddenly you're famous and have a whole shit ton of money. Some people deserve your help. Some people may not. Trying to figure that out while you're in a new city as a celebrity. Everyone wants your time and your attention. And you got to work too and get better at what you're doing. But everybody expects you to come in and be awesome right away and do all these things. And trying to do all these things. Thank you, Bill, with Matt Nagy as your boss. You know, so all of that goes on. So give them time. Patrick Mahomes didn't know how to read progressions. He told the Chiefs that. He spent the year under Alex Smith, who was not, one of the coaches I got a chance to talk to, position coaches says, look, if you want to learn about the best way to check down, Alex Smith is your guy. Mm-hmm. If you want to learn how to prepare, Alex Smith can be your guy. If you want to see how a player processes information quickly, Alex Smith is not your guy.
Nope.
But Patrick Mahomes learned a ton from him and then was able to move forward. Tom Brady had a year. No one expected him to even play. Brett Favre was a carnival show for Jerry Glanville and then finally got a chance to play. Steve Young sitting behind people. You have, Drew Brees got intermittent playing time. Steve McNair, 2 MVP caliber players, intermittent playing time. They got benched sometimes when they weren't seeing things well. And the coaches said, you're not seeing it well. You're sitting. We're going to put the veteran in. And if we get close, you're my guy. We're going to give you another chance. But you're still my guy, even if we don't put you back in the game. You just weren't seeing things right. And we don't want you to get completely discombobulated. Like the older coaches knew. They knew, like, there's precious amount of time here. And if you have them learn the wrong things and put too much trauma in front of them early, they may never recover.
It happened to David Carr. He never recovered.
Yeah, what was
Never.
it 72 times he was sacked, I think.
And listen, Matt, we can watch all the tape. To your point, USC, Alabama, Arkansas, wherever, Ohio State. Mentally, are you challenged physically by taking these shots, these hits? And it's gotten softer in the NFL, but the men have gotten bigger and faster.
Yeah.
And that mental toughness. Listen, no one's questioning Justin's mental toughness. It becomes a process of having to, as you said with Steve, was it Steve Young that you talked about, or was it Rich Gannon, getting his feet right with the routes?
Yeah, Young.
It was Steve Young. When I look at Justin,
when you think about it,
both apply.
But the point, Phil, even just beyond that, not to butt in, the point is that NFL you could afford, you had the time.
Yeah.
Now you don't. Now you have the 5th-year option as a first-round quarterback, and you're not paying the guy $2.5 million. You're paying the guy Daniel Jones. I mean, are you going to?
And there's free agency now,
right? Exactly. Yeah. And you're gonna. You don't think for a minute that Justin Fields and his agent aren't saying, well, fuck, just like Waldman said, we could go home.
There's billboards down the street.
Right,
with him
exactly.
I pass it every day when I'm going to the park or something.
Remove everything from the table. This can simply come down to finances. And not to bring up Josh Lucas again, because he was a big part of the issue, but he said something that I never really thought about, and I'm like, holy shit, he's right. So Ryan Poles is here. Ryan Poles did not draft Justin Fields. And Josh Lucas said, guys, the Bears made moves. Listen, anybody can trade the first overall pick. It ain't that fucking hard. Everybody wants it. You have to get, getting DJ Moore is a big deal. But he said, let me ask you this. Did Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham go out of their way to do absolutely everything necessary to surround Justin Fields with everything that he needed? And what is the answer, guys? No, they didn't. It was DJ Moore. It was an offensive line. Guess what? You were going to need DJ Moore if Justin Fields was here or not. Darnell Wright, you were going to need an offensive lineman whether he was here or not. They had $100 and some odd million in cap space. They went out and signed 2 linebackers and an offensive guard. I get it. They didn't go out of their way, Matt, to surround him with everything.
How's that left tackle playing? Isn't a left tackle supposedly?
But do you think they did that because the entire time they didn't really believe in the kid was going to be the guy that was going to get them to where they want to go?
And that's a great question, and I think the answer is probably no, because they already knew it was too late. After the Nagy show. After the Nagy shit show, they knew, and so they had to get, at least they could give him some weapons that will stick around for the next quarterback that they put in. And that's the unfortunate, difficult decision making that comes involved with this when you start on the wrong track with a lot of this. And I think that at the end of the day, we look at him as a player, and I think, we'd like him to have success with the Bears, but he's going to probably end up somewhere else, and he's probably going to, and if they build around him, they will have a little bit more success. Now his timeline is shorter now to get ramped up, because there's going to be some teams that expect him to be more of a finished product than he actually is. And that's gonna be the challenge for him, at the end of the day. But this team, I mean, when you look at the Bears, are they going to build enough for the quarterback they're drafting now, or are they going to build on defense? Because here's the thing, and this is a philosophical thing that I don't have the right answer for. If you ask me, you had Justin Fields, I would pour everything into the offense and say, well, our defense is going to be as good as it can be, but we're investing everything in the offense.
But would you do that if you didn't believe in the quarterback?
No.
That's my point.
And that's probably right. If I didn't believe in him, I wouldn't be doing that. And I would say, if he can prove me wrong,
right,
then we'll re-sign him.
With Justin, though, let's just look at it. You know how I feel about the cap, but fans are saying, well, they drafted a right tackle, they traded for DJ Moore, they signed Nate Davis, what else did they do? They re-signed Cole Kmet. What else did they do for the offense? They let David Montgomery go.
Yeah.
They signed Deonta Foreman and left him on the bench for the first 4 weeks.
But Phil, even just look at the draft. I mean, so they didn't. Pole's first year, his first 2 picks were DBs, and then he fucking here you go. Let's go get fucking Bayless Jones. Yeah, Matt, you were on with us that night.
Pick.
And I'm like, motherfucker, and I could see it in Waldman's face. That I was like, well, if you want a gadget guy in the 3rd round,
yeah, you could have had Khalil Shakir, who looks kind of promising now, because
I was having such a good day. Like, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago, Waldman fucking tags me on Twitter talking about Shakir, and I'm like, motherfucker, he's got to ruin my day here.
But sorry, but that's just but it's true. I mean, you look at those situations.
So like I know Bullets had a thing saying that he disagrees, but Bullets, I'm not saying that they didn't make upgrades. I don't think
We're
anybody
talking
can.
all in. We wanted Orlando Brown Jr.
But I don't think
right?
you went. I think
You
Josh
have
Lucas is.
Braxton Jones.
I
at
think
left tackle.
I think Josh Lucas is correct. I don't think that they said this is our dude. We're going all. We got $100 million. We got the number 1 pick in the draft. And Waldman said if they were 100% sold on Justin Fields, every single move that you make is through that lens.
And
of
it's
Justin
not even,
Fields.
and it's not even whether they're 100% sold on Fields. It could also be very realistically this, because this is what I hear all the time. It's the ultimate answer is, are they sold that if they buy into the remaining time they have with Fields, that they're going to have a job if it doesn't work out to the ownership's expectations? And it just may be the calculus of it. They may look at it and say, well, we'll get an extra year if we say we're drafting another quarterback. If we go all in on Fields and it doesn't work, we're probably all canned sooner than we want. And it's about save your ass at that point. And I think that that's probably a little bit of what's going on here, is that they're thinking, how do I bleed this out so that I can at least maybe I can strike gold like the 49ers did, or maybe I can strike gold in a different way with actually a pick that with getting a Justin Herbert type of quarterback, or a Patrick Mahomes type of quarterback, or, maybe we'll figure it out this time. And I think that that's what probably is the most realistic reason why they didn't buy into Justin Fields.
Well, here it is in a nutshell. And I think fans, you have to get on board with this. I can show you tape of the truth, but if you're going to excuse that with, well, he's got a bad line, he's got this, there's showcases on tape where it's just not getting out there and it's wide open, and you got to trust it and rip it. And when he does, he misses it. Shane and I were talking about the throw to Deonta Foreman when he rolled to his left. Foreman's running down the left sideline, left on television. Could have been right. Who knows with these TVs. So, and he launches a ball to Deonta Foreman. Deonta Foreman tries to throw up his left hand because it's so far flying out of bounds. Caleb Williams steps out, takes the ball, throws it, dimes it right there. Boom. And it's like every time. It's not like, these are the throws you got to make. Then the inexcusable is DJ Moore, game on the line. You just put the game away, run it out, win the game. That's what NFL is. Big boy football. Steps up, no fucking pressure. None. Steps up, overthrows a wide, not even open. This was like
high school.
Everybody cleared.
High school open, Phil. It was high school open.
It was like so open that there's no term for open that I know in the NFL for that wide, and he missed it. He overthrew it. These are the things you got to look at to what Matt and Shane are talking about, to the money.
That's what
because at the end of the day, are you going to commit a giant salary to a player that's consistently inconsistent? That's where it is. He's electric on 3 downs. The next 4, he's not the same. He's not seeing. He's not doing. Yes, I'm the first guy to tell you coaching is the number 1 issue. But now you're backed up against the clock with this guy. And I think, Matt, you've done an impeccable, amazing job tonight showcasing the time constraint and the negligence has pushed another quarterback out of the equation.
Let's take another angle of this that also kind of highlights this main point that we've been talking about for a while. Quarterback development. Okay. One of the things that my buddy Russ Landy, co-host of Scout Talk that I do on my RSP podcast, he's talked about how it takes about 24 to 30 games to really know what you have in a quarterback. And I've kind of refined how I see that range. And I write about this a lot, saying that at the end of the day, when you watch quarterbacks, we notice this. I mean, whether you're a casual fan and tuning in, and I don't think there are many casual fans tuning into this show. They're all pretty diehard. But
Right.
you know,
There's
if
no
you know
cash.
on whatever level
There could
you're
be
watching
casual
football,
haters.
exactly. You on whatever level of football you're watching, when you've noticed other quarterbacks in the league when they make their debut, they look good. They start or at least their production looks good. Their box scores look good. And you're like, oh, they're off to a good start. Everybody's, ooh, Baker Mayfield, look what he did in year 2. Ooh, Josh Dobbs, is he an elite quarterback after what he did joining Minnesota? That quickly. Right. Oh, Brock Purdy, he started off so strong. But then what happens, or Will Levis, good example of what happened, Marcus Mariota before that, whoever. But then after the first 5 to 6 games, after defenses have been playing them with their basic scheme and not specifically game planning for those quarterbacks, because NFL teams spend 4 to 6 weeks gathering tape on these quarterbacks. They don't look at the college tape to decide what they're going to do with them. They watch the pro tape and go, okay, you know what? This guy has trouble moving to his left. This guy bails the pocket too early in these situations if you get pressure early up the middle. If you get a hand up over the line, or you show blitz in a certain way, he loses his lunch. He misreads these situations. They start looking at all that and they go, what are things that our personnel does well? If they're good coaches, personnel does well that we can fit within the scheme to game plan against this young quarterback. And they start implementing them bit by bit. They don't pour the whole thing in and go, well, here's a scouting report. Let's find everything we can do here, because sometimes their personnel doesn't match that. Their scheme doesn't match it. So they pick maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 things that they can do. And they go, let's see if it works. Because if it doesn't work and we over game plan for this, we could be losing big time in this game. So let's test it out. Okay, now we see what the quarterback can and can't do. And over those next 6 to 12 games, weeks, basically whatever week number it is for the quarterback in terms of his starts number 6 through 15 usually is when you start to see them start to fuck up a little bit. And they don't play quite as well. The stats aren't quite as good. They start making bigger mistakes. The mistakes that they make that are repetitive become apparent, and you start to see flaws in their game. Oh, that Brock Purdy, he sure takes some risks with some of these across the field throws. Oh, and he's reading, there's certain things that he misread in the middle of the field, or the defense is clamping down in this area and forcing him to make a throw that his arm strength doesn't have, it's not in his pay grade to make that type of, throw with his lack of arm talent. And they start, and so usually around weeks 14 to 17, I've calculated, it doesn't always fit this way, but around weeks 14 to 17 for that guy's number of starts, that's when they look their shittiest. Like, that's where they look like, oh, this guy fell apart at the seams a little bit. Like, he doesn't look all that good. What do you mean? He threw 2 interceptions in consecutive passes. He fell apart a little bit in his game. And that's because now teams have a book on him. And then the next phase, after that through week 30 usually, or start 30, is can you develop beyond that? Not because early on, the first half of those starts 1 through 14 is really saying, can you play your game that you showed us in college at the speed and complexity of the NFL level? Mm-hmm. That's what's basically that is. And then as we get closer from, week 6 to 15, it's more like, can you still play your game, or can you play a different game based on what we're going to show you? And then after that, it is, can you improve on your game, or are you the same guy? And the guys who are franchise quarterbacks based on the money they get paid, because they don't want to the team doesn't want to draft another guy, but they're not
elite quarterbacks, they're good enough. They usually need a lot of talent around them, a lot of infrastructure. But if you can dictate what your team wants to do game plan wise, you can get to the playoffs. You may even get further than that, but you're going to need a lot more talent to compensate. If you have, if you are a guy who can grow beyond your game, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, never stop learning, always getting better. Patrick Mahomes, I would still argue, even though his production hasn't been great, because his receivers are
drop ball.
Well, they can't. They have one improviser in Travis Kelce, and so you need a wide receiver who can improvise as well as Patrick.
We've
Mahomes
said for years the talent there kind of exacerbated the talent.
And who's he working with every day now?
Now he's got Matt Nagy.
Yeah, exactly. Who he's yelling at.
Yeah,
but that's the thing. So when you have that ability to grow and continue growing, you're more likely to have an elite upside, even if you don't always hit it. It's there, and I think that's the thing, is that when you look at that, I know that's a long explanation of how that structure works, but when it comes to Justin Fields, well, when you fucked around that first year, now you either have to give him another 15 games, but now at a much higher price tag, because that development stage, if you're going to say, oh, well, that was a mulligan, like Trevor Lawrence with the, Urban Meyer and his crimes against coaching humanity, that he perpetrated on the Jaguars, you can look at Trevor Lawrence and look at his stats and how bad he's been, and statistically in some areas, and you can say, well, we can write that off because year one was awful, and you can. And then I looked at it this year, and some people were saying, well, you can't write it off anymore. And I'm like, well, yeah, you can, when Tank Bigsby causes interceptions by letting the ball go through his hands, or that your offensive line is so bad that you're getting creamed like that. You can still give him a little bit more of a mulligan there. So with Fields, they don't feel like doing that. They've decided we're not doing it. Yeah, the Bears don't feel like doing that the way the Jaguars felt like doing it with that.
And that's the thing, Matt. Phil and I, are obviously texting back and forth during the game, and I mean there's been plays and critical moments within the game where you're like, they don't believe in this kid.
Yeah,
I mean, you see
it was evident against the Lions in the first matchup.
Yeah,
when you had that 3rd and 2.
Yeah,
right, and 3, they run the ball, settling for a field goal when you're a 3-win team at that time. But we see it, and I see it on tape the opposite. But I want you to answer, Dubs. Is he still inconsistent, or has he actually gotten better as the roster play calling and protection have improved, and we're still holding on to last year? He's being obviously a smart ass saying me and Shane are doing that, but I still see inconsistency every single day, and I totally disagree. I don't see the play calling getting better. Don't forget, we were screen 3 weeks ago before these 2 wins. So, Matt, what say you on this?
I think it's been inconsistent this year. I think there have been moments where you see that they realized, maybe like early on it sucked. The play calling was awful.
Right.
And then some around at the end, I don't remember the timeline, but I'd say somewhere around the end of the first month, middle of the second month, you started to see them do things that maybe the Commanders were doing with Sam Howell, giving him one side of the field to read 3 to 4 receivers, and he didn't have to do as much manipulation of the full length of the field and still be able to find an open man quickly. Doing things like that tailored to what may have been able to make a difference. But then it seemed like that they reverted back to doing some things that weren't as weren't as consistent with their game. And I think that for me, the reason they may not believe in him is that they've decided to have a philosophy where they want a guy with a faster processor. And because, when I talked about Fields, he was one of those guys that pre-draft, he could go 2 to 3 quarters at a time without making more than one read. And a lot of quarterbacks in college do that with RPOs and misdirection schemes. I mean, Baker Mayfield played in a Lincoln Riley offense in Oklahoma where the first read with a lot of plays was really just window dressing. It was an embedded look off by design to set up the true second read, which was actually the primary read. They're a schemed play. That's schemed play for quarterback, meaning that everything's designed to go one place. And that's it, and Baker Mayfield did that a lot. So I would say
route
would
be an example of this.
Exactly.
You
Or
got him in
misdirection.
man. You move him in motion. Now he knows it's man. Now we got a rub. So I know I'm going to the slot because the outside receiver is running a skinny post to try to accidentally pick him. So great throw. Amazing.
A throwback screen is
Throwback
a scheme
screen.
play. A misdirection play action throwback play. Same thing. That's the impetus is we know where it's going. So, truer statement about Fields maybe is that like many of the smartest quarterbacks in the game, he has a slow processor in situations where only the fastest processor is going to do. And a lot of people conflate processing with intelligence. And when they heard that some scouts believe he had a slow processor, they thought it was a hit job directed at a young quarterback like they did with Lamar Jackson and Teddy Bridgewater. And then it becomes a racially tinged thing where we began the show with, where it seems like it's an assassination of what they can be. He has more than enough intelligence, but we still don't understand what processing means for quarterbacking, because look at the love Baker Mayfield got and the hate CJ Stroud got with the latest technology.
Yeah.
So you gotta, at the end of the day, he's a player who just, he's probably going to need to go to a new place that's going to really work on making a, how would I best put this? Just building the offense as much as possible around him and making it work. And there's just too many factors where people aren't in agreement that are going to make for this to work, at this stage.
I just want to address Cornelius. I don't think this is subjective at all. I really don't. It's not about a belief. The subjective part is the truth. When you look at the tape, you have to be able to see the progressions and understand. I mean, I've shown this stuff over and over and over.
Still, at this point, like we said, it could actually go beyond the tape, right? Because there's a massive financial aspect to.
Well,
to
now
all
it is, but I'm saying I think having Waldman on here, and this is God's way, because I was like, this is going to be great, because you can articulate this roadblock in the way. Yes, Justin could have been damaged, neglectful, just like you were saying with children and abuse. A dog that has been abused and is scared, they can be brought out of that and become great. And you list Steve Young, Jim Plunkett, and these quarterbacks. But right now, with the pressure of the city of Chicago, the fans being separated, and the issues you see him with an offensive coordinator who refuses to get under center, run the ball, boot with him, get his feet in line with these routes and he's not doing that. We're in the fucking gun. It's 3rd and 1. We're in the fucking gun. All of that stuff should not be overlooked. And then I bring it back to, and I say this for the last several weeks, beyond finances. You heard Chris Collinsworth talking the way he was talking about Tyson Bagent, that was fed to him by the coaching staff. I will go to my grave knowing that. He could learn a few things from Bagent here. He could, all of that. That's what they want. They want a guy that processes. This has nothing to do with intelligence. Nothing. As Matt is saying, process. And I said it to you. You get up to the line of scrimmage. You're motioning your guy to see where the coverage is. Now you have to know your routes. Know what they're going to cover and deliver the football on your rhythm steps. It's a 3-step. They're running a combination route on the backside. It's got to be 1, 2, 3. I know he's running the in. He's running the post. What's that safety doing? That's the guy who tells me where I'm going. And it's out. And you believe in it. And you throw it accurately.
And the belief is the most important part. I know
Right.
it sounds hokey, but it's the way to break it down that I always say is this, is that everyone who's listening to this watches TV and watches actors, and think of your favorite actors who are really good, or comedians, stand-up comedians who are really good, or whether it's a performer, whether it's a musician, a rapper, whoever it is. When you listen to them, the ones who are good at what they do, it's a demonstration of fast processing. Because when you're an actor, you have lines. You have all this theory of how you move, how you react, what you do. You're not thinking about that when you're on stage. You have to forget all that. You have to learn all of it and then forget it all, and just and what that means is that you have to learn it so well that you are responding at the speed of instinct. It's not instinct, it's the speed of instinct. And so you have to be able, it's just like people who talk about guns. They're like, oh, if an intruder comes into my house, I'm going to have the gun in the headboard of my, of my bed, and I'm going to roll out after I've been sleeping for 6 hours straight, pull the gun out, and I'm going to shoot the gun out of that guy's hand. Okay. So first of all, you could be a cop with 25 years of experience of gun training and not do that. Even if you were wide awake and waiting for the guy to come up there. The amount of training that goes into these types of fast, movement in time situations where there's there's a basis of a script, but things can change at any moment. You really have to have some intuition and seen a lot of experience a lot of different scenarios, and then have enough comfort level to be able to, know when to respond on time. You can't hesitate for a moment. You hesitate for a moment, you're 2 yards behind the receiver. You're 2 steps ahead of the receiver. Guess who's 2 steps ahead or behind the receiver in the NFL compared to Alabama? Yeah, unless they're playing Georgia. But that's the that's the thing. And people don't get that. Robin Williams, he was so funny, or Bill Burr so funny to some people because it's believable. It's not that he just thought of this stuff and got drunk and decided, yeah, I'm going to do this on stage tonight. That may happen now after a decade, if not decades, of work, writing jokes over and over again, playing in small clubs that people don't give a fuck who you are and hate your ass and heckle you, and do this years and years and years before you get to the point where nothing really bothers you because you've seen enough. And that's the problem with processing, is that people equate it with just intelligence. It's a form of intelligence, but it's not book smart intelligence.
No.
It's not whether you can function in society intelligence. It's so much different than that. And I think that that's what people have to understand.
You can answer this, Shane. I think it goes back down to the growth of consistency. You have to be able to overcome.
But my point
and
is,
the money is the line.
Listen, Matt, if you're on 3rd down and 7, and DJ Moore is wide open by 10 yards in the middle of the field, 23 yards away, and you overthrow the guy, is that on the head coach? Is that on the offensive coordinator? Who's that on? Who's the issue? Who fucked up there, Matt?
Sure, Justin Fields did.
Exactly.
Or the quarterback who threw it. And I think that's the thing, is like, if you knew that the coaching staff believed in him for 2 more years and were willing to make the payment and feel like they had a cogent plan to make the most out of him, I firmly believe, and I think everyone on this panel firmly believes, he could be an all-pro quarterback. He could be an all pro. He can deliver all pro statistics if you gave him that time, you paid him the money, and you invested in him with the way that you could. But this team, looks like
right after they drafted him.
They fucked up after they drafted him. They delayed the timeline, and now they look at the amount of money and they go, "We're gonna get fired if we give him that much money." And he doesn't immediately turn it around. And we don't have the support staff right now for him to be that good right now. Whereas you put Caleb Williams or Drake May or whoever the fuck it is there, and you go, well, we're rebuilding. But with Justin Fields, unfortunately, the perception that sucks is we're not rebuilding. We need him to turn it around now, which is not the truth. But that's the way they're looking at it. And it's a shame, but you can also understand we're saving a lot of money if we start another quarterback, and it gives them this excuse to say, we're going to do it right this time. We're going to build everything together.
And the people that are in charge didn't pick him.
Yep.
So Matt, this is, I think, probably what everybody's waiting for. And I'm assuming you probably realize we're going to ask you this. Let's just first off, let me ask you this simple question. Matt Waldman's favorite quarterback, 2024 NFL draft.
Well, okay. This is going to be one of those. Well, I'm qualifying this statement because as folks know, with what I do with the rookie scouting portfolio, I tend to wait on quarterbacks in terms of evaluating them. But I have evaluated more of them this year early than I have in recent years, but still have enough games for each to go through that I know I'm not remotely definitive with what I think.
Yep.
My favorite quarterback thus far is probably Michael Penix Jr.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's because
James predicted that.
I did today.
There you go. Look at that. I like his aggression, how he can attack downfield. I think he's good in the pocket. He makes tough throws. I don't think he's late with his processing at this stage of what I've seen. He may have a more limited offense in terms of compared to some of the other guys. You're not going to see as much that you go, ooh, that's going to work in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there's enough that is difficult to quantify about him that will, like the processing. It's people having trouble doing that.
He's not an electric, elusive guy. You know what I mean?
He's a pocket quarterback.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So that his game is to be that.
And he's tough as nails because he got the shit kicked out of him at Indiana.
Well, and that's going to be a big part of his evaluation is the medicals.
Yeah, but he can still move. I don't think this is Carson Strong 2.0.
Yep.
With him. I think he can still move. Carson Strong was like, I need to get some money. I'm going to play with, my lower limbs dangling, if I have to. In fact, I'm pretty sure they photoshopped out the scooter that he was resting that knee on when he was dropping back in every game. I don't know how they did that in live action, but but yeah, Penix isn't that way. I mean, he's no longer the mobile guy that he was as a rushing threat, but he's a move the chains runner now. He's you look at what Tommy DeVito's done for the past couple of weeks. And you can see that he can move the chains. And if you run a design play that they're not expecting, pulling a guard with him and letting him run, he'll give you 10 or 15, 20 yards on a play occasionally. And I think that that's something that Penix can do. But what he does well is throws the ball with defenders in his face with terrific accuracy in the intermediate vertical, games. And he's not late. And it's not just the receivers he has at Washington. You go back to Indiana and you see him doing it there with guys that, sniffed the NFL, and the NFL sniffed back and said, you stink, and I mean, that's,
at least for that level of the game. So yeah, so far Penix is probably the guy that's my favorite that I've seen.
So playing off of that, obviously, since we're Bears centric here, this is the issue, man. I know you're not going to play GM, but we've talked about the issue with you don't have to pay Justin Fields in 2024, but you have to commit to him financially for 2025 in May of 2024. You have to guarantee him.
Or can you just say, no, we're not going to take your 5th year like the Giants did with Daniel Jones and then franchise tag him?
Well,
you could do that if you wanted to do it.
You could, but I don't know if he'll be able to. I don't know if they'll be able to keep him because Daniel Jones was a player that I don't think anybody wanted.
Yeah,
in truth.
But if the trouble would be, you can franchise tag him.
Yeah, but I don't even think it's going to get to there. I guess what my point is
just saying. Go ahead.
In all of this mess that can be Chicago, it looks very, very likely that they're going to have the number 1 pick via Carolina. So you're coming down to these options. You're going to stay with Justin and pick up his 5th year option for 2025 and trade the number 1 pick for a haul, which probably under the circumstances, we know how the NFL works. There's going to be a team out there that's going to go absolutely apeshit and give you a haul. So let's just say in this exercise, it's Vegas, the Vegas Raiders, because they have a penchant to just say fuck it, and so they're going to offer you.
If you eat at P.F. Chang's every night as the owner, then you're wasting your money. So you're going to do that. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
they're offering you 2 number 1s, 2 number 2s, and Max Crosby for the number 1 pick. Then under that circumstance is your quarterback that you're going to be moving forward with for the next 2 years is going to be Justin Fields.
Hell yeah, it would be. For me, it would be.
We're right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But this is, or I mean, and we haven't gotten into this, the Caleb Williams Drake May debate.
Yep.
I happen to think, and I know Phil is on the same wavelength, that if the Bears, I happen to feel if they stay at 1, they're going to draft Caleb Williams.
Yeah. And here we go again.
Yeah.
As long as they fire.
But you can't keep this. You can't keep this
staff. This is the same world of wonders, I call it, with the McCaskey family. You finally gotten a president in Kevin Warren. Don't let the 2 wins and the disco globe celebration after you beat the Lions and the Vikings fool you.
Yeah, we know that the way that we feel is the coaching staff can't be here if you're going rookie quarterback,
right,
with this group.
So we're hoping we'll know by season's end before the draft whether they're
correct,
whether that's going to happen.
Right, exactly. And come on, don't you think Ryan Poles knows right now?
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. And so many people are like, you got to let it play out. You're letting it play out for the fans' perspective to give them more fodder to talk about. Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham, no, right now.
Walking. Yeah.
But under that premise, Matt, so let's just say we can remove the Bears. Matt Waldman has been named the general manager of the Damascus Car Bombs, and you have the number 1 pick in the draft. And this situation, you have a talented quarterback that's been dealt a raw card under the circumstances. There's going to be financial implications, but has shown in spots that he's also wildly talented. If you're pushing your chips in, are you rolling forward with him and cashing in on the number 1 pick? Or are you sitting at 1 and choosing between Drake May and Caleb Williams?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's the one obviously everybody's expecting. Is that look at this way? If my evaluation of, I'll answer it two ways. If my evaluation of Williams and May or May is on par with what the draft community and the media seem to think, then the pragmatic decision is to get the number one pick and to basically start over. That's the pragmatic decision, because it buys you the most time to build the organization in your vision and for you to get the type of talent that you wanted. Okay. But at the same time, the other question would be, if I don't think Williams is that much better, or don't think May is that much better in reality, and I don't think that the fit between what I have in Chicago and the support structure, what I have and what's going to be there, regardless of who I pick, is going to be good enough to give Williams or May the support that they need, then I would probably rather trade the pick, get the support staff, give it one more try with Fields, and if it doesn't work, hope that I get a chance at that the quarterbacks who are coming out a little bit later
with the assets
with the assets that I've accumulated. Now, probably me, based on what I've seen thus far, I would probably do that. I would probably trade for the pick, for the infrastructure, give Fields one more year.
But you're comfortable with guaranteeing him $25 million, because you have to make that decision by it's May 3rd or May 4th. It's literally right after the draft. It's like May 3rd or May 4th, 2024.
So that's the thing.
It's you essentially have him for 2 years.
Yeah. Now I'll say this. That's a big deal, because look at Bill Belichick, who guaranteed Devontae Parker $14 million, a wide receiver who has never been anything remotely as good as promised in any stop.
Right.
And still isn't. So, $25 million, that's a tough deal. And so, I mean, I would have to feel like I would have to sit down and have a real conversation. Like, for me, part of that decision would go this way. I'd have to sit down and have a real conversation with Fields and say, do you still want to be here? Do you still want to be here? Because if you still want to be here, I want to consider the idea of going all in with you, because I believe you're as talented as any of the quarterbacks that we have in this class. And I believe that the organization, and it's a matter now of trying to undo some of the wrongs that have happened here but we have to do it on a fast track, and if I feel like that we can still build a team knowing that guaranteed money is a fair bit to build, then I might take the risk, but that's a big risk, So
so you have to factor in a couple of things, and I believe me, what you're saying, Matt, is amazing. But so under the premise now, let's just say you're the owner, and you look at the situation and you're looking around, and you're like, well, CJ Stroud's doing pretty fucking great, and you had the number one pick last year, and you came to the conclusion that you bypassed him, and let's just say that Caleb Williams lives up to the hype, and you traded the number one pick again.
Yeah.
Guess who's out of a job?
Yeah.
That's
the fear.
Yeah.
Wait, I think that's important in this, because Matt is coming in from the outside, not living the last.
Yep.
I mean, he only could you have to put on your Browns blanket that Linus
but-
carried around with him,
but-
and just know that
And just one more
this is
thing
what
that-
Bears fans have dealt
Right.
with.
But one more thing
Ineptitude.
that's a massive part of this, and it's financial again.
Well, this is what I want to drop that comment in there. It's not a myth, the cap with a guaranteed $253 million to give Justin
here's the
Fields.
point.
That's the difference, Ryan.
David Mulata is his agent. He's had guys in situations that he's gotten them off of their teams and moved to different teams. Matt, the agent is going to be a big, huge part of this.
Yep.
Because if you're sitting down, like what you said, you want to talk to Justin and say, hey, do you want to be here? And Mulata's saying, yeah, but you're paying us $250 million. And that is if their financial expectations are there, how do you move forward with
I think
a question mark?
Yeah, because I think if you're a GM, a new GM in this role, the smartest thing that you can do that's the most practical is to clean house and say, listen, we're starting over. I know the Bears fans are used to this, and I hate it for you. And I'm sorry that this is the case, even though I don't have to apologize as the new guy coming in for what's happened in the past.
Right.
But I feel for this team, and we have, if I'm the GM, we're gonna have a certain certain personality that we're going to try and instill, certain type of thing we're going to instill, and that's going to be a big issue. And I'll say this: I know that this may seem a little controversial right now at the top of all the CJ Stroud love, and I think CJ Stroud is a good young quarterback and is going to be a good young quarterback, but we haven't seen the dip yet, and that dip will come. Because there are certain things that he doesn't do all that great, which is like throwing against leverage that's playing over the top of him. Doesn't always read that extremely well. When he does get pressured enough, like against the Jets, you can see that things go haywire for him as well. And that's the thing. I know that folks get mad about, we rebuild every 3 to 6 years. Look, it could be worse. You could be a Cleveland Browns fan where we're constantly rebuilding. So, at the same, whether you're the Bears or the Lions, you've heard this over and over again. But I would say again, I don't really, if I were a GM, if I'm being honest, I'd give two shits about the fans other than the fact that it's a PPR, that's kind of more of a PR thing that I'm going to have to do right. Okay. I'm going to care about the fans. But first and foremost, I'm going to care about my vision that I want to enact and make this team great, because at some point, they're all going to hate me anyway over some of the dumbest shit or even reasonable things.
Right.
And then hopefully the plan can work out well enough that after they want to hang me in effigy, then hopefully things will work out well enough that they'll look back and say, that was a great move that we hired that guy. And it would involve a lot more than just, coach speak to fans and media.
So, Matt, let me ask you this. So just to continue off of this, and it's important. So let's just see. It looks like they're going to have, what are they at, like 93% probability to have the number one pick. Right now, if the season ended today, right this second, the Bears would be drafting number 1 and number 5. So under a different premise, you can also trade the number 1 pick for a lot, because if I had 10K to put in the middle of the table, I think the number 1 pick in the draft is going to be Caleb Williams.
Right.
I don't think anybody's going to think that I'm crazy.
Nope.
By saying that.
Nope.
You also have the option at number 5, maybe if you don't believe in Caleb, to have other. Is it Jaden Daniels?
Yeah.
No,
is it Daniels or May
Penix.
or Penix?
Right.
Penix.
Right. But it's. But
if I'm the GM at 1, I'm taking Caleb Williams for the Chicago Bears.
And here we go. Can you talk about Caleb?
Yeah, look, some of the things that you love about him is that everyone knows, you see the playmaking ability off structure. You see the big arm, and all the types of throws that he can make on and off platform that are super impressive on tape. You know, that's great. And a lot of that is going to work in the NFL. A lot of it will. The things that I would say that you can be, I like that he has the play fake game that does pretty well. He's
Always
got a nice
carries it
play
out.
fake. Yeah.
Thank you. That's
He's
something we don't see here.
he's a manipulator with the football in terms of pump fakes and movement that can throw off a defense, and that works very well for him. I think he reads the leverage, of off coverage pretty well, and he can work from the near side to the far side of the formation. He can work the first read to one boundary and then to the opposite boundary with his second read. That's good. I think he feels backside edge pressure against unblocked defenders pretty well, and he can come off his second read to the third read, say from the near side of the field to the far side flat. So seeing the field and processing and moving when he's comfortable to the entire range of the field and getting the ball there are all really good things. And not every quarterback can do all that. Justin Herbert does that very well, as you can see. And there's some, and that's a great skill. He climbs tight pockets, pretty well, and then can reset in rhythm and fire the ball only where the receiver can make the catch. That's a product of good processing because your feet are aligned with your eyes.
As his number one trait, Matt, what you just said.
Yeah.
That's the thing for me. The Bears have not had the guy that moves, sets, throw right where the receiver only can get it. This kid does it time and time right. Great.
And
verbiage there.
Yeah. And it's a great point, so you've got a player who understands how to maneuver the pocket and stay in the pocket, but also can maneuver the pocket and get outside and be a threat with the run game. So these are all things that, certainly, do you want to, then you get the guy who can go off platform, pinpoint on an off structure scramble, moving to his right and hitting the guy 52 yards downfield behind the zone. Those highlight worthy plays that gets everybody excited. He's going to throw the ball away when the pressure gets there fast. All those types of things. He identifies blitz packages reasonably well. What you want, things he can work on because again, he's not perfect.
He's young.
He's
nobody's
young.
Perfect. We've not even saying that about Justin Fields, and I see every quarterback, but it's not what we're talking about here.
But
I want to know your opinion. This was another big thing because you're crushing this report right now. Ball placement and flare movement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's been a long time that I could say with sheer confidence, from Oklahoma, watching him to USC, obviously continuing with the coach and the offensive coordinator, who are the same people. His ability to hit those flare routes in stride or bubble screens and those tunnel screen concepts is impeccable to me. It's like, wow. It's like he's standing right next to the guy, putting the ball right in front of him where there's no hesitation in his receiver. Yeah. It's pretty impressive in that short area or long distance across the field, putting these balls out there.
No, without a doubt, but, I will say, some things that we could look at that would be, look, he can improve his confidence with targeting the first read based on what he sees pre-snap. He's hesitated and given up sacks because he's passed up on the best and first opportunity to get the ball out. Like he can get a little greedy.
He gets greedy,
and that's what happens. He misreads linebacker.
Is it 100% greedy, or is it he's afraid to let it rip? Because to me, there's a difference, and that's what we're seeing with Justin here.
Well, I think that for him, I would say from what I've written thus far, it's more confidence than it is greed. But I can see how greed can be part of that.
See, I
because
see it as greed. Like he wants to make these big plays, especially this year.
Yeah. And a lot of young players who have that kind of arm talent, who do read the field reasonably well, is that, they end up early on in their careers, they do pass up the first read too often because they think there's something better there that they're going to be able to create. And that's where you hear the advice all the time. Like Peyton Manning gave the advice to Anthony Richardson last year, who was my favorite quarterback in this class, he said, just take the easy stuff. Don't try to buy too much time to get the hard stuff, because you're going to mess up on being able to move the field. But Williams, the other things that you normally see with quarterbacks, misreading linebacker drops to the intermediate flats, firing balls into drop lanes. He does this deep into his own red area, like the black zone. That's what they call it, I believe. So you have some of that. I think that another thing that kind of happens with him decision making wise is that, just like Jalen Hurts or any quarterback who can buy time, they sometimes wait until the defender is completely on top of them to get rid of the ball and take the zero, then end up taking sacks that he shouldn't. He misses underneath defenders, dropping in passing lanes where they come from the opposite direction from where the receiver's breaking. Because he maybe saw the defender initially dropping and moving away from the break. He forgoes easier targets in the middle of the field, and I literally wrote this: he'll forgo easier targets to get greedy in the middle of the field and not realize he hesitated with 1 to 3 hitches that tipped off the underneath coverage to come off its primary responsibility and cut off the passing lane bottom. So I have both greed and lack of confidence depending on the situation.
Yeah.
So you got a little bit of that. He, I think overall, the other thing that's important, when I looked at releases and mechanics, he's got a nice high release point.
I love
it. He can roll to his left or right, throw off the back foot as well with sidearm delivery. I think he's got a real whip-like motion when not under pressure with that sidearm. But because he has that strong arm talent, and let me just say that, the games that I've watched thus far, I've watched a few games, and one of them was the Utah game where he hurt his hamstring.
Yeah.
Okay. After a 59-yard run. And after that, you could see that the back legs and hips were a little stiff when he let the ball go. And maybe it led the ball to sinking in the shallow range. His finishing stance was a little wide. And I'm going to go back and look some more to see if this had anything to do with the hamstring injury early in the game, or whether that was something that I continued to see before and after, with his tape. But I think everything's there for him to be a good NFL starter, franchise quarterback, Pro Bowl caliber player. I think there's a lot there for that to happen. It's just a matter of, it comes down to this: will the Bears give him the infrastructure to succeed? Because what's talked about outside the fan base, in Chicago, when I hear this all the time, is Chicago's going to do the same fucking thing they did with Justin Fields. So what fucking difference is it going to make?
Yeah.
That's what I hear over and over again from people in the writing community or the evaluator community, is that, are they just going to fuck it up again? They're going to ruin another quarterback because they're going to try and flash fry his ass, and you either get a beautifully seared piece of meat or a burnt piece of flesh, and they've burnt Fields.
Jim Harbaugh could totally stop that fryer from overcooking. You need a head coach with a plan and a culture proven that you're going to come in here, not some hot shot rookie OC. Oh, Ben Johnson's it. Who is Ben Johnson, the head coach? Nobody knows. Everybody knows Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator who got beat by the Chicago Bears this past weekend.
Now, if they're going to bring Dan Campbell in, that's a different story.
Exactly.
You bring Dan Campbell in, I'd be excited.
Exactly. That's the difference, Matt. This organization sucks. Forget about quarterback. At finding the right coach. Right now, I am not signed on for Eberflus moving forward. As talented as
Well-
Caleb Williams or Justin Fields is, the proof is in the fields in regards to this. They've destroyed him. And yes, you see flashes of excitement and great plays. There's never been consistency there. Justin has his warts. And are they going to be fixed here? I don't think they can be.
I'll
Not
say
with this staff.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who hasn't watched every Fields game this year by any stretch of the imagination, but from what I have seen, there were things that I was excited about that I liked. And I look at him and I think the best thing for both parties is for them to move on. And I think that's kind of where I'm at is that Fields to me can still be good. I just don't think it's worth the money to really do that unless this organization has a vision for him. And I just don't think this organization and vision really are two things that, work well together right now. It's not proven that they've had one. So, if I'm Justin Fields, I'd want to go to Atlanta because they have a good defense. It's my hometown. We have a very good run game. We've got a talented pair of receivers in London and Pitts who are excellent, and they need a quarterback who can get the ball to them and in a manner where he can create. So I just look at it as
there's going to be a market for him. That's the thing.
That's a market, and he can be good.
Yeah.
And it's just that here it's just time's run out, and it's not necessarily all his fault. It's not necessarily all the coach's fault, though. I would put a lot more of it on the coaches than I would put on the player.
Me too.
And I think that it's if you were only paying him what he's making on his rookie deal for another 2 to 3 years, hell yeah, you'd stick with Justin Fields. This wouldn't even be a conversation. But if you're having to guarantee him the kind of money you're guaranteeing him, without a plan, a great plan, yeah.
So 2024 is digestible. I mean, very digestible financially, but it's the 2025,
and you got to make the decision in May of 2024.
But then again, you're looking at the Green Bay kind of set a blueprint with what they did financially with Jordan Love. You know what I mean?
And you're right. It's a great point.
Yeah.
They built around him. They put youth, all that. But here's the rub.
Yeah,
Jordan Love, you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Because Jordan Love was a laughable first-round draft pick in the scheme of we're going to start him right away. Yeah. And I agree with Greg that you need to start with center. You start inside out. I'm a big believer in that. But
we've been saying it for fucking years here.
Right. But Jordan Love was a mistake, was a quicksand quarterback. He got into quicksand all the time at Utah State. He was impulsive. He made Drew Lock type of decisions, but with more athletic ability. Yeah. It was awful at times. But they were patient and they let him sit. And all those things I said a quarterback has to do, even this year, I've watched him a lot this year. And because I've been looking for some of that immature Utah State play, and I saw little flashes of that here and there with him. But, early on in the season, you could see that he had confidence in his timing. He knew where to go, what to do. He had been around. He knew how to prepare, all those things that he needed to have. And then when the Lions threw their man coverage at him in the first matchup, and he shit the bed with that, he came back against the Lions in Detroit and played pretty well. So you can see that he had some growth there with him, and he's getting better. And you can see that time gave him that processing confidence because everything else had already been worked on enough that he wasn't overthinking anything. And I think that he benefited from that. Where, whoever comes in here now, they're not going to be sitting.
Right.
Most likely. Now, why not? You do have Tyson Bagent, I would say
people wanted to know your opinion on him. Go ahead.
I like Tyson Bagent coming out. I think I had him as my 5th or 6th quarterback on the board. But the big question mark is, playing Colorado School of the Mines is a lot different than playing, Texas A&M or
We
Mississippi.
came
Or,
in here, won the first game for Matt Eberflus
Yeah.
at home
yeah, and
ever.
I mean, he moves well in the pocket. He certainly has some good placement. The arm talent is there. I think he's a guy that I projected as a journeyman starter if everything goes well for him in terms of his development path, and maybe more if he can
There's
continue to
nothing
work
wrong
his
with
game.
that as a
No.
UDFA.
Just think about
No.
it. As a backup, that's exactly what you would hope you get.
They won. They won
Exactly.
that. They won with that pick. It was a very
did.
good pick. I mean, good enough that they took PJ Walker off the team, kicked him off the team.
And we were worried that they wouldn't make the decision.
Yeah,
to
we
move
had
on
to
from
worry
him.
about it.
Yeah. So with that in mind, I mean, to me, you already have a bridge player in Tyson Bagent if you need him, so that your your young rookie can get acclimated. So you don't have to force them in right away if you don't want to. I don't, especially if you're not looking at Tyson Bagent really as your franchise starter and you feel like, well, we can let him get a little beat up. We can let him go through some trials and tribulations, and we'll be okay with that, because he's not our big ticket investment. And if we want to move on from him, fine. He was useful for us and a bargain for us at that level. I mean, that's the practical nature of it, and it's a cold, hard truth. But and if he beats expectations, he comes in here next year and is like, yeah, now that I've got a year under my belt, I'm going to fuck all of you up.
Pro system.
Yeah,
we've seen the story. Tony Romo,
but like real quick, Bernard, this is you're paying him $41 million over a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
Justin's gonna. I mean, Daniel Jones is getting what, $45 million in
1 year.
1 year. So
it chews up the cap, bro. That's what I'm trying. That's what I was trying to tell my guy.
Let's ask this. Let's just say the Bears get to the end of the season, they clear out the coaching staff, Matt, and whoever they bring in, and let's just say they got it fucking figured out. The coach
they got it figured
out.
Like a Dan Campbell type of coach, and whatever the personality,
just whatever their name, whatever
knows
the
how
name
to build
is.
it. Yeah,
yeah, they figured it out, and you're in the position of power. Are you, under the circumstances? Let's just and throw any rookie quarterback's name in here.
Yeah. Well, if the
where would you go with Justin?
With the
financial implications,
if the new coach, okay, if we throw everybody out, I have a scouting director I trust, I have a coach that I trust, and I'm the GM, which means then these assholes are going to be working together so that they're on the same page. We're not doing this New England Patriots style of in January, the coaches are going to overrule what the scouts have been doing for a year and a half and come in, but not really communicate what's going on. I mean, because that's essentially what they're doing, whether they soft soap it in a nice way or not. If everyone's on the same page and working together, and the two main people, the grocery shopper and the cook, are saying to me, we want Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
We want this. We want this Georgia Peach. That's who we want. And I know it's going to cost more, but that's who we want. Well, I would say yes. I would say we're going to do it. And because I'm trusting you guys, I would have to feel really good about it. Now, if I don't completely trust my staff, they weren't the hires I wanted. The owner made me do it because Colin Cowherd said that this was the hottest coaching candidate. Then we're probably starting off with a rookie. Okay. But if I grew up with these guys in the professional football ranks, and I know they're not trying to do the political game with me, and they're not talking nice to me in my face and going behind the owner's back and bad mouthing me, as the GM, they're not pulling that shit. And I know that they're not going to pull that shit. I'd take the risk if they told me hands down. I know everyone says Caleb Williams is the best thing going, but these are the flaws. Here's the tape. Here's what we see. Here's what we worry about this projecting well. This doesn't fit with the offense that we want to be. I don't think those are anything that you're going to hear.
Right.
But if that was the case, then yeah, I would say, and they say, but we know Justin can do this because this is what we're going to do. Here's the quarterback we had in this last system, and he couldn't carry Justin Fields' jock, even if he were physically of those dimensions and had the arm. We know Justin could do this. Then I would trust them, and go from there. But most likely, if we're gonna, the way the NFL realistically is, and people are always jockeying for a better position, and you've got a bunch of overambitious fucks who've been raised in a system that's very cutthroat, most likely you're going to say, let's start from scratch. Let me see, you guys prove what you can do with a new resource, and let's have time to get to know each other and figure this all out.
The Bears have never done that.
Right.
Never. Not with Mitch Trubisky, Rex Grossman, with Justin Fields.
They didn't even do it with Jay Cutler.
With Jay Cutler.
Said Jay Cutler's here. Offense is fixed. Devin Hester's your.
And I've told you this story, right?
Yeah.
With Ryan Sundquist, Sundquist telling me,
Ted Sundquist.
Ted Sundquist saying I was on a show, and afterwards told me and Brandon Thorne, because Brandon was the producer and I was the guest on the show, told me the whole story about McDaniels railing off on Cutler on the initial introductory phone call, and Cutler saying trade me to his agent in the room there with Sundquist, and when they did, he said, we knew the Bears thought he was a finished product because he went to a Pro Bowl. We knew that he was still on his development path. And when McDaniel ruined that shit, we got out. We acceded to his wishes, but the Bears were disappointed when they found out that he wasn't the finished product that they thought he was.
Yeah.
That's why this network has been adamant to not be fooled by the wins that he got. Matt Eberflus's block with J-Lo is not the way. It's just not the way to go. They have to clean the house. If that includes polls, then so be it. If it's Jim Harbaugh, whoever, I have my list of coaches that I believe can have the right temperament and personality to persevere and say, I want Justin Fields.
Personally, like I love what the poster said about starting off with your offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because, and I think we're all in agreement of this is, if you build a strong offensive line, quarterbacks are going to want to come here, whether you're drafting one or whether it's an aging free agent who still has game left. I'm not talking a Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers aging free agent.
Right.
I'm talking more of like a Peyton Manning-esque Patrick Mahomes at the end of his career, Justin Herbert at the end of his career type of player, and maybe not even end of it. So I think that, for me, you have the opportunity to get one of these top quarterbacks, so you're going to have to probably do it, but you have the 5th pick too, like you said. So you're going to be able to start building. And
it's probably not going to be the 5th pick after we kick Cleveland's ass, but you know how that
goes. speaking of teams that are doing miracles on offensive line with Bill Callahan,
four different quarterbacks, bro.
Yeah, and and Jedrick Wills is out. They're missing a lot of offensive linemen, and they still can run the ball on just about anybody. They're playing pretty well with running the ball, and Flacco's got enough time to be a decent quarterback right now.
Let me just get super chat.
Just real quick. Let me. Yeah, that's fake rumor, right?
Fake.
Matt, who? Oh, I know you're not done, but
I know. But I'll answer.
Who would you be higher on? Do you think Justin Fields, Caleb Williams, Drake May?
Probably Caleb at this point from what I've seen. May, I have some questions about with his game
I'm there
that I know other people are like really excited about that I respect. I haven't had a lot of talk about it, but we've had I go, oh, I'll say something. I'll go, I watched Drake May today, and they'll go, oh, what'd you think? And I go, well, I don't think he trusts pre-snap alignments of coverage. I think he hesitates. I think he gives zone coverage more time to react than he
High
should.
volume interceptor.
Yeah.
I see it because of the hesitation, man. I am right there with you.
Yeah. So I'm not all that high on Drake May from what I see right now. That could change. I've seen 3 games of him. I usually watch 6 to 8. But I saw him against Clemson and Oregon last year and South Carolina this year. So again, to be transparent, haven't seen a ton, but these things don't tend to change as much in 2 years.
Right.
So there's that. I would definitely pick Penix and Williams over May, and I would probably pick Williams. Pretty sure I'm going to end up picking Williams over Fields, and I might even pick Penix over Fields, depending on how the medicals check out.
What are your thoughts on the Heisman Trophy winner?
I haven't watched the LSU kid yet. I was really enjoying watching.
Dad loves him.
I hear a lot of good stuff. The guy that I have seen that unfortunately that got hurt was the kid out of FSU, Jordan Travis, and I liked him.
Jordan Travis is a gamer.
Yeah, I liked him. So I was kind of excited about that. I would say Bo Nix is someone that is not going to be in the Bears conversation, and most people are going to say thank God who are Bears fans, because especially when I tell you this, he reminds me of what I think people hoped Mitchell Trubisky could become. So I don't necessarily think he's
We've been talking about this all night, Gary. So
I don't think that he's necessarily a top quarterback prospect, but he's gotten better over his careers, and so he could wind up in a situation where things work out for him overall. But let's see, quarterback wise, who else have I seen that I would say? For me, I'm not as Penix, Travis, Williams. They're probably the 3 that I was most excited about. Nix, May. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is coming out.
No,
he shouldn't either.
I don't. Those are guys that I've watched.
JJ McCarthy.
I have a chance. I haven't watched McCarthy yet. He's on my list pretty soon. So
Matt,
yeah.
Just before you move on, does this? And I've always been a age guy. Like Jaden Daniels turns 24 on December 18th. JJ McCarthy's 20 years old. Does any of that factor in for you at all when you're talking about kids going to the next level?
These things factor into it for me because it factors into it for teams.
Yeah.
Like on the level for if I was working for a team and the team counted on me as a decision maker and said,
yeah,
are you worried about him at 24 being a 24-year-old versus him being a 20-year-old? And I'd say, fuck no, because we're going to be patient with this guy. And when he's 30, 32, 33, and he takes care of himself well, and God willing doesn't get hurt, he's going to be seeing the field better than ever, and we're still going to get plenty of time out of him. But because the way organizations look at it, and they aren't going to argue with it. It's kind of like trying to argue with, being a Methodist and arguing with a bunch of Baptists about whatever you have a difference of opinion with.
Right.
They're not going to budge, and it. So why even start? So for me, that's why. I mean, in my idea of it, it doesn't make a difference in the leagues.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately, it does.
Yeah, because Burrow was an older prospect that worked out pretty fucking well. Yeah.
Little Pa, $5. Thank you. Thoughts on launching polls and coaching staff promoting Ian Cunningham, hoping he brings in Harbaugh? That would be a dream scenario for me.
Yeah, I don't think
but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah,
I don't.
think so either.
I don't know where Ryan Poles is. A lot of people,
What do
love
you?
a lot of what he does, but I see some misses there. Like you talked about, the center position has been ignored for too long.
So
here in Chicago.
what's your thought on this?
Mhm.
My buddy Dan Hatman over at the Scouting Academy talks a lot about how coaches get multiple opportunities in the league, but if you're a fired GM, you never get a shot again most of the time.
Right.
So would you be open to the idea of a team of the Bears hiring a GM who's been fired by an organization? Would that be something you'd be open to, or do you feel like that? What are the reasons? One that yay or nay on that? I don't know.
I'd have to see the name of who that is, but the coach to me would be the one.
Yeah, I'm not there. I'm not a launch Ryan Poles guy. Listen, if Kevin Warren is the X factor here, depending, he could come in and say, "Fuck everybody. I'm putting my stamp on this team." He's the new team president and all of that. So, but if it's me, Ryan Poles, I think, has done enough good. Listen, no GM is batting 1,000, clearly, but I think that there's, you see,
Amen.
Mike Lombardi.
We're all on agreement with you
fucking
there.
dumbass.
I would not.
Is there a dumber fucking person? But I think
Angelo Joe Marino.
Yeah.
Than Mike Lombardi.
This is going to be he's been through 2 drafts. He's had 1 first-round draft pick. His first draft, he didn't have a first-rounder as a result of the Justin Fields trade that he did not make. And I think that obviously the offense needs work, but I know you called out the offensive line early, but I think that they've definitely made strides there.
Sure.
They need a center. I mean,
that's the guy. Yeah, that's the guy that's going to tie it all together for them.
Sure, 100%. I mean, Tevin Jenkins, and I've been more critical of Tevin Jenkins than anybody, not talent-wise, but like you got to stay healthy, man.
Yeah.
And he's there. I'm not on board with launching Ryan Poles. To me, that would be a clear overreaction.
Okay.
When he hasn't even had a chance to make his move at quarterback.
Yeah, he's just cleaning out the house and evaluating what the house looks like while trying to add some things that he can.
Kerry Franklin agrees with Shane.
Yeah.
And Matt.
Yeah.
Why in the world would we get rid of Poles? He's crushing it as a GM. Shane is all over.
I wasn't a fan of the Chase Claypool trade at the time.
Sure.
Neither was Matt.
I understand, and I still right now.
Waldman, not Eberflus.
I would make the Roquan trade over again. I would because people get stuck on
trades.
People get stuck on Roquan and that's it. But
Khalil Mack, 15 sacks.
But it had nothing to do with talent, Phil. It had everything to do with clearing the financial deck. Yeah, and you had to. You had to make the trade.
You had to, but he didn't spend
because the guy that was here
before Justin.
But the guy before him borrowed from that contract like 3 times, and that's when
how he says borrowed.
You do, but that's what you do. You create guaranteed money for the player.
No, I know,
and you're kicking the can down the road. At some fucking point, Paulie Walnuts is knocking on your door and say, "Pay up, asshole." The fucking cap works until the bills do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
that's great points.
I just think you have to listen. How many GMs are fired before they get to make their move at quarterback?
They did trade Claypool back out. Kind of own their mistake.
Ask Miami how that's working out for him. I mean, what is he 10 snaps?
We love the Montez Sweat deal. We love the DJ Moore deal. However, the pessimist is going to say, well, you passed on a possible franchise quarterback in CJ Stroud.
But Phil,
But I'm
the
not
time,
that.
I think
I don't agree. I'm
and
serious.
I don't know if Matt, you can speak on this. Would you have moved off Justin Fields last year if you had the number 1 pick? Me either.
No.
None of us would.
It was easy for me.
I love Bryce Young.
And not me. I wasn't there with Bryce.
I'm
at
just
all.
saying, I saw one of the fans. I wanted to double down. What Carolina's doing to Bryce Young is not fucking at all fair. He's playing with the Arena League receiving core down there. And he's holding up.
Yeah.
For all you short people haters. Say fuck.
But
and what happened to Russell Wilson? Kyle Brandt. Where's your fucking steam now, you bitch? Got that out of my way.
You know,
fake ass Bear fan.
You look at the obviously the defense is making strides, and I think that come in line with Matt Eberflus taking over as defensive coordinator. But you have to, if you don't believe in the head coach, you have to put that's on the GM's resume.
Yeah.
And the Allen Williams fiasco, and then the Walker fiasco, the running back coach.
But to Matt
HR violations.
Waldman's point, the failure is the most important thing, and everybody hates when I say this, is the coach. And if he let Bill Polian tell him that Matt Eberflus is the guy,
but Phil, can we? And listen, I'm not an Eberflus guy, but Matt, maybe you can speak on this. As crazy as it fucking sounds, if Chicago, let's say Chicago goes to Cleveland and beats Cleveland,
okay,
then you have Arizona and Atlanta in Chicago in inclement weather, and then the last game of the season, you're playing in Lambeau for a chance to go 9-8, and you could be in the playoff. You could be a wild card team. Are they going to fire Matt Eberflus? I know it sounds crazy. It's insane to think about. The percentages are low, but would you be absolutely blown away if Chicago beat Cleveland, Arizona, Atlanta, and
Joe
Green Bay?
Flacco?
Huh?
Right?
I wouldn't be blown away by that. No, I would say it's mildly surprising, but not shocking.
Yeah, exactly. But and listen, I'm not trying to be a homer. I'm just
we talked about this
4 or 5 weeks ago. If you told me that this was even a fucking possibility, I would have told you that you're a fucking idiot. You know, and say what you want about Matt Eberflus. These fucking guys have not quit on the field playing for him, and the defense has improved.
Up his sleeve.
Yeah. But no, it's
Vito is saying it too. No,
but
they're
Phil,
playing great D.
But you're against.
We have to put it.
You would fire Poles, Phil. What is your no?
No, I wanted to do a dive into the good and the bad of Poles. And tonight we've talked so much about Justin, so it's not. But it's the best night to do it, right?
It all starts and ends there at the end of the day.
Yeah, the move of Poles is, I believe, he's earned another shot here. I really do, and I wasn't feeling that way 4 or 5 weeks ago, based on a lot of things. And it all stems straight from the top, from where you should build the team, from center out. I always believe that. I believe the Bears have neglected that, and the head coach. I don't think Flus is the right head coach. He has the guys believing, but just like you said, you look at the wins and the lack thereof. I think, what is he, 8-23 as a head coach? People are recency biasing this situation, and we look at the wins that he's had. He's beaten Josh Dobbs.
Right. The best one you've beaten is Jared Goff by
and I knew, I swear, I go, Jared Goff is not winning this game when I saw him wearing gloves on Sunday. When he's wearing 2 gloves, I go, this motherfucker is going to, no, the Bears are going to win this game. I said it right before. the game. I'm like, and sure enough, he pussied up. And he is what he is. I would never, if you had a, I would take Justin Fields over Jared Goff every day. What they've been able to do with Jared Goff has been amazing over there. Because I'm not a fan at all. You want to talk about thin, skinny? Jaden Daniels is 20 times the quarterback that Jared Goff is. I guarantee Jaden Daniels is going to be way better than what Goff. But anyway, I'm going down a tangent. This GM deserves the right to pick his coach, which I don't believe he did, and his quarterback. And I have been disappointed. I've been proven wrong so far. I mean, it's early, but the Javon Dexter selection, I hated. I wanted the center from Minnesota that the Giants have. Schmitz.
Yeah.
John Jacob
Jingleheimer
Schmidt.
I knew the dads were going to go there.
Yeah.
But that's where we are. We're still Lucas Patrick and the prick. Those things bother me. How they've handled Tevin Jenkins. I love Darnell Wright. I don't like Braxton Jones. So that's where we are with the offensive line. So that's where I was, and you're losing on top of it, and you got the shitty coach, and now they've kind of turned around. But I put my true glasses on when I'm looking. Okay, they're beating shitty quarterbacks. It's pretty important. Pretty important to recognize. They go into Cleveland. They beat a guy that got signed last week in Joe Flacco. That's not moving the chain for me.
If they're not winning that game. Sorry. They're not winning that game. Cleveland's defense is too good. Flacco actually gives them the first quarterback they had who actually plays reasonably well in terms of throwing the ball confidently into tight windows since I don't know.
Man, he made a couple of fucking crazy ass tight window throws.
Yeah,
in that game.
He did. But I mean, look, no, it should be a contest. To be honest, it should be a contest, and there's every reason why the Bears should win this game. Honestly, because the defense is the defense is good enough to be able to get some pressure on Flacco. Flacco can be mistake prone. The Browns defense, while it is a big play unit, they also give up big plays. And they're a team that can be over aggressive against the run because they throw bodies at people. They're basically like the White Walkers coming off the wall in Game of Thrones.
They're a different defense at home.
Yeah. So, when you see them, what can happen is a player like Fields or, even Herbert, who has the speed, you make the first guy miss who's out of position and you make them pay, you could get some big plays off of them in the run game. So I think the Bears have a real chance. This is going to be a competitive game.
Bears did lose Yannick Ngakoue. They put him on IR. That's a bigger loss than people believe.
Well, for this roster, it is because
this team. Now you're Rasheem Green
putting Estelle Getty out there to replace him.
Hey, no,
Rasheem Green.
She's feisty.
She is.
I have no idea what they're gonna. I mean, Rasheem Green. And
I think they'll probably put Walker out there, though. Quite honestly, DeMarcus
they probably
Walker.
will put Walker and rotate him in, but again, they haven't done a good job at the defensive end position. And you're having a freaking real exciting. It's terrible timing because Montez Sweat is just lighting up the fucking field with excitement because of how good he's playing.
Well, and it's not just sacks. He's making things easier for people. He's a multiplier.
Pushing the line of scrimmage into the backfield. He's dominating double teams. He's chasing down plays from the backside. He's doing things I saw Khalil Mack do, and he's longer, like long. Dan Kelly, $5. Carolina trade was so good for the Bears, it might have been bad. If Poles called me, I was the GM, I'd have to think about hanging up. He's going to get fleeced.
Don't you think there's going to be a legit market, Matt, for Justin Fields even beyond Atlanta?
Oh, absolutely. I think there are a number of teams that are going to look at him and see. I think Seattle,
Tampa,
Las Vegas. I don't know about Tampa.
What about Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh could be a place.
Yep, I agree. Pittsburgh could definitely be a place. It depends on, how patient they are with Pickett. On that level.
Maybe we trade Fields to Pittsburgh for Mike Tomlin. We get our head coach that way, right?
I would do it.
There you go. Laugh. Can you trade ownership too? Because if you can get the ownership, then you'd be good to go.
Can you trade an active player for? I know, obviously, draft compensation. Is that
nobody knows right now?
I don't even know if that's.
You can trade compensation of the draft. That is
right. We know that, but
we need a rule book guy. I don't know if Dan Beeks, he's changed his name. Our proverbial mustache.
Yeah, I think that Cleveland's O-line has played incredibly well considering how many guys are not healthy and are out. Bill Callahan, the longtime O-line coach, is doing good work.
He's that guy is a great offensive line coach.
Yep.
That's his space.
Yep. How do you feel about Schwartz? Like
Jim Schwartz.
I like Jim Schwartz. I like the way they play. Because I thought Grant Delpit was the best defensive player in the draft the year that he got drafted. And the only thing that the issue is that he had a high ankle sprain that he played on and missed a ton of tackles because he's a high flying, acrobatic kind of tackler.
What a crazy few days that fucker had, right?
Right.
Yes. What the hell happened? I saw his name.
Tell it, Shane.
Yeah, he played fantastic, signs a contract extension, and then now to IR.
Yep. Yeah. He tore his groin.
Yeah, groin.
Oh my God.
But he's when you looked at his game, he had think of like a combination, and I'm not saying he was as good as these two guys, but think of the promise of being able to combine Charles Woodson and Troy Polamalu, where you could get a guy who could cover maybe your secondary receiver in the slot, like he did T. Higgins early in the season, and win on those, and at the same time play at the line of scrimmage and run blitz, and be able to shoot gaps as like an extra linebacker, which they need because that Owusu Komora, while he's extremely fast, he's the Jared Goff in terms of size for linebackers.
Right.
Right.
Notre Dame. Yeah. So having an extra body up there and allowing him to freelance and be disruptive. What they've done in Cleveland is they've basically said, we've taken the seatbelts off this ride and we're going to let you guys go full force. And if we lose, we're going to lose big.
They're going to attack the Bears.
Yes.
Sunday.
Oh yeah, they are. And adding the
second, Delpit's a big loss, right?
Delpit's a big loss because the amount of flexibility they can have to really be disruptive is a big deal. But they still have a good secondary and Ward and Emerson.
Ward's banged up though too, right?
He's a little banged up. He's been playing banged up.
I think he was limited today.
Yeah, but he should probably
go.
Good to go.
Who goes in for Delpit? Do you know?
I've got to look. I don't remember right off bat. But when you look at this team, the fact that the Zadarius Smith, who's another guy I really loved in the draft class, I remember profiling him at Football Outsiders back in the day as a guy that people need to kind of keep an eye out for because everyone was loving Bud Dupree.
Yeah.
But Smith was the guy that you're like, this guy has more tools and understands the game. He's not as physically dominant, but technically he's a good guy. So the fact that they have those two pass rushers, and then you can throw in on top of that along that front. What am I looking at here? Look along that front. You also had, Okoronkwo, who's played well, but he's doubtful right now. So they're pretty banged up, but Smith and Garrett should be okay. The safety that they're going to have instead of Delpit is going to be DeAnthony Bell, who I don't know a ton about. So it's a long drop off, most likely. But
it's important for Bears fans. You got to see how the Bears attack that.
But Newsome and Emerson and Ward are a good threesome of cornerbacks.
Yeah.
That's definitely the case. So being that, this is the game you could see where maybe the Bears have success running the ball and have some big plays as a result of their ability to run. Whether it's off play,
and that means Getsy will have 45 screens dialed up.
Maybe
Deonta Foreman will break a 21-yard run, be replaced for the next 25 plays, come back in, hit it for 11, 3 carries.
Matt, I had a question written down that I wanted to ask you, and it's off of Cleveland, but what is and I always have fun with these questions, but I know you've been super gracious with your time. We're going to end up wrapping it up here, but what is your biggest holy fuck, I missed that dude in your years of doing this? Just I was a Deshaun Kaiser guy.
Do you want the holy fuck, I missed that dude? He is so much better than I thought. Or holy fuck, I missed that dude.
Yeah.
He is a lot worse.
I was implying the worst. Yeah.
I thought you were asking the worst, better than I thought.
No. I'll give you both. The holy fuck, he is a lot worse than I thought was Blaine Gabbert. I saw Blaine Gabbert in his sophomore year facing a couple of NFL caliber bookend rushers on the same team, and loved what I saw in the pocket and outside the pocket. And then I watched the next year, and he was skittish in the pocket, and I was like, but I remember what I saw last year.
Yeah.
That can't be the case. And I realized, and I leaned too hard on the year before, and that was a big learning opportunity. I definitely missed big on him. I would say on the holy shit, I missed him. He was really good, and I didn't see that coming. Was Demaryius Thomas of the Broncos.
Yeah.
I thought I watched him at Georgia Tech,
and rest in peace.
He's rest in peace for sure. Jump ball guy, really athletic, couldn't run routes. Didn't I could make the argument if I really wanted to, and I'm gonna pose it here, but I'm not accepting the argument. I could pose the argument that until Peyton Manning came and said, look, this is how you run routes. This is where the ball's going to be placed. You're going to be my top receiver. You better not fucking screw this up. I'm going to ride your ass until you become great or you're not very good.
You didn't think Tim Tebow unlocked him in that playoff game against Pittsburgh?
So, yeah, I would say those are two big ones that are probably the biggest hits and misses that I remember. Hakeem Butler certainly has not worked out. Right. And I was very high on him. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's hard. That one's a hard one because you never know whether the years away from the league has changed how the player really is, and whether if he started off earlier, whether or not he would have been refined to a razor's edge. Yeah. So there's some things with that. I would say the one that I missed on that I still believe to this very day, he was good and didn't get his chance.
Chad Kelly.
No, I still believe he's going to have his chance. But the one who's gone right now is Cedric Pierman out of Virginia.
Yeah.
He was a running back who ran 4.340, was about 215. He had a ferocious stiff arm. He was a preacher's kid who played special teams, returned kicks, could catch, went to the Senior Bowl. he had small hands, and everybody got all upset about the small hands and potential for fumbles, even though he didn't have. I don't think he had a horrific career with fumbles. I don't remember, but he was a powerful back with long speed, burst, run inside, outside, tough, and he got drafted by the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Ravens had Willis McGahee and Ray Rice, and Ray Rice had just, and I liked Ray Rice, and I had a good grade for him.
Me too.
You know, and I
That
remember
was the Matt Forte draft, I think.
that was the
right?
Matt Forte draft. Yeah, that was a great draft. And Jamal Charles, Matt Forte, all those guys.
Yeah, all right, real quick before we move off of that, did you know that the Bears were going to double dip at running back the Matt Forte draft?
No.
And they had a deal worked out. They were going to come away with Matt Forte and Jamal Charles, and it fell apart on draft day.
Wow.
Yep.
2 Hall of Fame caliber backs, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Right there.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, at least in terms of talent. That's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, those Pierman was good. He got cut because there were just too many good guys, and Ray Rice was balling out. He had gained 20 pounds of muscle that summer. So then he went to Detroit as a free agent. He was in camp for like a week. They cut him. The Browns had him. They cut him. And it was all during the same training camp first year. Yeah. And he wound up on Cincinnati. And he became a special teams stalwart for them.
Yeah.
And made the Pro Bowl on special teams, I believe. Had 2 contracts with them. And one year I remember Jay Gruden was coaching. And all their backs got banged up, and they brought Pierman in, and he looked like the player that I thought he was. And I remember them saying in the post interview, we didn't know what we had in him really, because he's a special teams guy. That's what we thought of him as, and we inherited him. We didn't know. And I'm thinking, I really thought that he could have been a star, and is that true? Who knows? But that's how I felt about it. So those are 3 right there.
My biggest miss was I loved Deshaun Kaiser. And
he got fucked over too.
Yeah, the situation. Yeah.
Look at Zach Wilson. Everybody says Zach Wilson. Yeah. How did they not have a veteran quarterback in the room for him in his rookie year? Well, ask Cleveland, because they said, "Hold my beer."
I was way off though on him. I actually saw some Steve McNair in him.
Yeah.
To me, a little bit.
I see that.
Yeah,
I definitely see that.
I mean, I didn't whiff like Phil did with Johnny Football, Mr. Generational Talent over there, but
that dude. I gotta say,
I fucking hated him.
I hated him for what he did. Yeah. In terms of his play, but I get watching the documentary. I have some, some empathy for his situation and how he got used a bit and how immature he was and all sorts of factors. But I'll say this: his style of play. I think if he was a student of the game and actually worked at it, his style would have worked.
Yeah,
because it's not much different than a lot of quarterbacks.
Cleveland just needed to trade for Mike Evans. That's what they need to do.
That's all they did need to do. But they just needed.
You're right, Matt. If he put the work in.
Think about Ali, how Ali fought, and he played off the ropes and did a lot of things that broke the rules, but he knew how to get away with it, where his boundaries were. I think if Manziel was a student of the game and could learn where his boundaries were and what would have worked and didn't in the NFL, it would have been fine. I'll say this as a Browns fan. I remember one game, they were commenting about how he wasn't sticking to what they needed to do, and the coach criticized him in the media for not playing in the pocket. So the next week they had him play. He was playing against the Steelers, and he played from the pocket. And he played very well from the pocket. It was almost like saying, like the immature little boy saying, "I'll show you. You gave me a challenge. Fuck you. I'm going to do it." And then you, at the end of it, you look at it and go, "See, that's where the point where the coach wants to come and look, you dumbass. I challenge you to not being able to do it, and you can do it. Why the fuck aren't you doing it every week?
Yeah.
You just thumbed your nose at me, in a way that just proved my point.
Once.
Yeah. So." Yeah, I would have definitely been I would have liked to see, him work. To me, that's the thing, is that I think he only saw himself as a college football player, and he wound up in a situation bigger than himself.
Yeah.
And how do you turn down the opportunity to play in the NFL for all that money, and you love the fame, and maybe you don't completely believe in yourself,
Has a lot of mental health issues and drugs, the wrong people. It was like the perfect potion to blow up.
But if reason to abandon a team, here's another reason. You have a bunch of scouts and an owner who drafts this dude. Was it number 1 overall? I'm trying.
No, Manziel was 22nd.
22nd. Okay, good. At least
he
wasn't
dropped.
that bad.
But that was they took the who was the oh fuck. He took somebody at number 7 that year. 7 and 22 Cleveland did.
Blake?
Yeah.
Justin Gilbert.
Oh shit.
Oh, the corner.
Oh yeah.
So, Mike Lombardi was in your front office that year, by the way. So nice job, Lombardi.
I'm trying to be in denial about this, that this ever happened. But the fact in that documentary that the workout that they all got drunk and he was throwing to accountants.
Yeah.
If I was a scout and I saw that, I came to visit and I'm like, he's throwing to the accountants and and it looks like he's hung over.
Yeah.
And this all looks incredibly fucked up. I'd tell the coach we can't draft. I would tell the GM we can't draft him. And they'd say, why the fuck not? And then they would say, and then they would probably give me the speech that an NFL guy gave someone I was close to who's in the league, said, kid, if you want logic, don't fucking work in the NFL. It's entertainment. It's all entertainment now. But like, if I got that kind of answer and I was a veteran scout and was like, had my life together in the right way, which is hard to do. We all say this sitting on a bar stool.
Yep.
When bills are due and you've extended yourself and you haven't saved the money you should. But if the situation were right, I would probably say, yeah, fuck you. I'm out of here. I'm not working here. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not drafting a guy but it's easy to get on your high horse and stand on your principles when the mortgage isn't due and that kind of thing. It's much more admirable when people actually do it, in that scenario. But that would have been a moment for me, because to me, you look at this and say, really? So you're going to make a splash with this guy? That's what you want? Nah.
It's sad that's I think a lot of people, when they heard me say there's a lot of shoe salesmen in this league, and I was quoting Sam Rutigliano on that, a lot of people fought me like, this is the highest coaching I go, no, it ain't. College coaches and high school coaches are better coaches than you see in the NFL. It's hire buddies, look for headlines. Like, that shit is happening.
Business. Yeah, business is business. And if you work in corporate America or you work somewhere related to corporate America and you start thinking about the stories people tell about the crazy shit that happens and the function and the bad decisions, and it's all behind high-priced toys, state-of-the-art technology, sponsored by Microsoft, S2 tests that they've hired military people to do consultations on how they study X, Y, and Z, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter about the tools or the toys. It's still the same. I'll just put it to you this way. I'll say this because I'm probably I know someone who is able to watch tape from a app of a NFL team. They are not part of the NFL team. They've been able to do it for several years. And the reason they were able to do it was because the big-mouthed owner at a specific event that I don't want to name was at that event and telling his IT guy, just give me the password. I can't hear you. Say it louder. Say it louder. Just say it louder. I can't hear you. Just say it louder. And the guy who overheard it wrote it down and shared it with a few people to be able to watch tape that is on their proprietary system. And that's the owner of an organization. And that's a light story.
That's a light story. Exactly. As crazy as that is.
Yeah.
It's light.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that, Phil. I said we both have a couple.
I have a lot
crazy college. I mean, crazy lacrosse stories from college in Syracuse that would blow your fucking mind. I mean, it's
here's another one. Here's another one I'll give you. And I can't give the name of the organization, but there was an organization. They ended up getting their quarterback, and he's a good quarterback. I don't know if he's as good as the other guy that they could have gotten. I would argue no, and I would argue that probably 99% of the population would probably say he's not as good as the other quarterback they could have gotten. But the year before, they had a chance at a great quarterback, and they had him in for meetings, and they really loved the meeting and the whiteboard session, the recall he showed, all the promise, and they had a workout where they played like 11 on 11, but they didn't have their safety there or a middle. I don't think they had their middle linebacker there or a guy who could play middle linebacker. So they brought in, they had a coach play it. And they're just throwing on air, So they had him there. And the quarterback was just balling out. The veterans were falling in love with what he was doing. And he then throws a touchdown pass over the head of the coach who's running behind, and the coaching staff that is no longer there. This coach was a player and a veteran position coach for many teams before he became a head coach, and his staff and him were like, "You can't do that. That wasn't the play. You didn't execute that play, and you cheated because you threw it over the coach's head." And I don't remember the way the players phrased it, but it's a common phrase players use that is essentially like it rhymed with touchdown, like this touchdown, meaning if you see the back of a defender's head, you throw it over his head and put it there. And so they were like, the quarterback, when they told him that he was cheating, he said that, and then the whole defense and offense were all repeating that to the coaching staff. The coaching staff got so pissed off that they took him off their board. I was told this by a scout. Took the player off the board. And this player may go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So I think you know who it is. And we don't have to say, and I think and they ended up with a very good quarterback. But he's not that guy, and there will never be another that guy. And that's why that team didn't get him.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So those things happen. It's no different than like Russ Landy telling the story about Alex Smith that showed up in Sports Illustrated years ago. That was how, the 49ers had a head of scouting whose son grew up basically with that organization, watching that head of scouting. And I don't remember his name. I've talked to him, and I would remember it if I saw it. But he was a scout on the Rams with Russ. And, he saw the 49ers get built. He was on the Rams. You heard that wonderful workout that Alex Smith had that Gil Brandt was gushing and, on TV about. And so one of the execs with decision-making power came down into the bowels of the scouting facility in the organization and said, "Listen, I know you've studied Alex Smith, but I need you to see this tape. And I need you to throw out your report and I need you to do a new report with this tape. He goes, because, we're hearing so many good things about him. And I just feel like that you need to guys get another look at him. So these scouts who've done 2 years of work on him, and some of them didn't have a grade much higher than they had. Like one of them had Jeff Smoker rated higher than Alex Smith. Okay, if you remember the Michigan State quarterback, So Alex Smith getting all this love, and they put in the tape because they're puzzled to see what the fuck are they going to be looking at that they're going to throw out their scouting report. It was literally before YouTube, essentially what would now be a YouTube tape of 20 highlights, 20 highlight plays. That was it. All great throws, all his best throws, 20 highlights, no context whatsoever, just that. And the kid from the scouts were all like, really, what the fuck? And they all knew this was the executive wanting Alex Smith and wanting the scouts to cover his ass for wanting to make that decision rather than going through the process. So this veteran scout, whose dad was 49ers, part of 49ers royalty, said, fuck no, I'm not doing this. You're telling me I need to take 2 years of tape that I've studied. I've watched 2 years of this guy's game, and he's a 4th or 5th round pick. That's the grade I have on him. You want me to do this with a hit clip? And they had to be separated from each other.
Jesus Christ.
Over that kind of stuff. The guy
owner and the scout,
not the owner, but an executive and the scout.
Executive.
Yeah.
Welcome to the NFL.
This was in San Francisco or L.A.
L.A. The St. Louis actually at the time. St. Louis Rams.
Louis. Wow.
Yeah. And that's
this is the shit that I've
The-
been privy to. Like, there's just so many of these types of people and stories, and
it's you have good stories too, but but when we say, fans get bought into the PR, just like how the NFL gets paid by the military, or had gotten paid by the military. I don't know if they still do. Had gotten paid by the military to do all their militaristic, patriotic exhibitions.
Right.
They're not doing, before you hear that, you think, oh, yeah, it's good PR. They're aligning it, but it's more about we're doing this out of, we're not doing this for money. No, they're doing it for money.
They are.
They really are. They are. It's like the Wizard of Oz. This is the great big green curtain. And when you look behind it, you're not as impressed.
There ain't nothing free in the NFL. I mean, remember we interviewed Rashid Davis, former Bear wide receiver.
Yeah, the Bears were making him pay.
Corner. Hey, they gave him a game. He got a game ball in a playoff game, and went and picked up his paycheck, and he looked and fucking charged him for the game ball.
Yeah.
And
they
then
took it right out of his check.
He's like, that's standard. He's like, that's actually standard practice with not just the Bears that do that.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's just normal everyday business. I mean, and the funny thing is, when I got started scouting 19 years ago, I didn't know a lot of this stuff by any stretch of the imagination. I was just an operations manager and eventually a quality director at a large company, about 10,000 employees. And, I would see crazy stuff at that company. I'd see them ask for you to go, they'd pay tens of thousands of dollars for you and 2 other people to get certified in something that you travel to and then implement it across 70 or 80 branches. If and really all they wanted was the PR or the PR value for attracting business. They didn't really want to actually do the thing, which I understand, or they would make decisions like late in the game where they do 2 years of research, everyone's getting behind it, and then he changes his mind over something silly, or tells people they're not going to get bonuses, but then walks around his corporate facility showing people the new yacht that he bought. I mean, those are the types of weird things that you see in the NFL that you see happen. And again, people who make big decisions, who are high-end executives, there's a high percentage of narcissists and psychopaths, and part of it, as my wife would say, and very wisely and astutely would say is that sometimes the decisions that you have to make when you know that you're going to buy a facility with hundreds of employees, knowing that you're going to absorb it and eventually get rid of all these people, it's a strategic move. You have to be someone who's detached of emotion, or learn how to detach emotion to some degree. It doesn't mean you have to be psychologically abnormal, but it does help in some regards that some people have this. And I think that also it just means too that sometimes when we look at this, people look at the numbers and we think it's a much more sophisticated operation than it really is. And so when I first started doing scouting, by my fourth or fifth year doing this, I had someone who was a former player, worked for 4 organizations as a scout, has degrees, advanced degrees in areas that would basically tell you he understands the movement of the body extremely well, and he has an advanced understanding of analytics. In addition to his scouting experience, and he eventually did consulting for 30 different teams directly for GMs. And PFF, I know you guys bang on them, and certainly they have their good and their bad, but PFF sells a lot about how they're connected with organizations. They're connected a lot with quality control people in organizations. They're not connected directly with GMs. This guy was connected directly with GMs. So I was thinking about at the point that I was doing this in my 4th, 5th year, I was thinking, I'm learning a lot and I love this, but I don't know how sustainable this is going to be. Am I going to be able to turn this into a career? And it started to turn around, and he didn't do anything to turn it around, but I always associated it with a good sign for me, because at that point he contacted me just coincidentally out of the blue and told me about what he does, showed me some scouting reports with a team that he was working with on Russell Wilson that blew my mind, that it was like this big, like in terms of type, and so vague. And he said, your scouting's not where like a 20-year veteran would be at. He goes, but it's getting better because your process is light years ahead of what he goes. I scout and have my own process, and yours has a lot of similarities to mine in some respects. And he said, and you're going to keep getting better. He goes, but the thing that really got me, and why I've been subscribing for the past 4 years, and finally I'm telling you, is that you repeatedly give me insights about what's going on in the league, in business wise. And I thought you were in the league from the way you commented on these things. He goes, because I've seen these things over and over again. He gave me many, many examples and stories. Some of them I couldn't tell for like 5 to 8 years because they involved players who needed to retire. Like he once told me about how Fred Taylor had to be escorted around by an off-duty or retired detective in Jacksonville because he was still in his hometown, essentially, or his college town, or not far from it. So he would go out and he nearly missed a team flight, which is like a fireable offense, essentially. And so they had a guy literally walk around with him with the keys to his car every Friday night and Saturday to make sure he made it to the plane. They said he was a good kid, very smart, but just immature. And he turned into a great veteran. But like I used examples like this all the time. So the point I'm saying is that he asked me, how did you find? I said, I worked in corporate America, and he started laughing. He goes, yeah, I mean, he works in corporate America now, but like, that was it. So the things that you guys see and that we talk about, that it's just common sense. Unfortunately, if you've experienced it and see it, it's likely to be happening. And you can read between the lines. You see how they talk to the media. You see the actions that are made. When the Titans drafted Vince Young way back in the day, you could see from reading the tea leaves and watching enough. You watched enough. You heard Mike Shanahan say, I called up Jeff Fisher before the draft. He and I are good friends, and asked him if he would draft Jay Cutler, and he unequivocally said yes. Before the draft, you heard you heard them reporting that the team was split 3 ways on who they wanted at quarterback. The scouts and the coaches wanted Jay Cutler. The Norm Chow wanted Matt Leinart, and the owner obviously wanted to say to the Houston they wanted Vince Young. And so these are things that you, if you see enough, you start to see the patterns and go from there.
So real quick, Matt, before we wrap up here, 19 years ago you said it. So what did your synopsis on Craig Krenzel look like?
I don't remember.
I know.
But I liked Omar. I liked the kid Urban Meyer had at Bowling Green. Omar. What was his name? He was a quarterback. I had a lot to learn. Because I liked him a lot.
It's gonna drive me nuts now because I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but I'll say this: I liked Bruce Gradkowski more than I liked Matt Leinart.
Yeah,
and that worked out pretty well. Career.
Correct.
Yeah, I was a big Bruce Gradkowski fan, and I knew that I at least had promise of what I could work on when I liked this running back out of Arizona named Mike Bell. And I had him rated way higher than anybody else. And I thought, well, I'm a dumbass. What do I know? And then he ended up being the starter as a UDFA for Mike Shanahan in year 1. And I thought, well, okay, maybe I'll keep doing this. Maybe
Mike Bell.
Work on it. Mike Bell out of Arizona.
Fun. They were like, oh, they got another Terrell.
And I like Chris's point. I do like the point that
Chris R. $4.99. Justin Fields has the maturity of a 10-year vet with a circus he's had to deal with from the team, fans, and the media.
Because am I missing something about how he's handled himself in the media with all this crazy shit that's gone on in Chicago? Has he really stepped out of line in a massive way?
No,
other than hinted at that he's not getting to have input into what the offense is about.
Well, and that's the thing. We when that happened, we were like, good for you.
Yeah.
Speak the fuck up. And then Bears PR and all that shit. And then all of a sudden he comes out like
whoever
17 minutes later and he's like, well, it's not really the way that I meant that it came across.
They made him
like
back up what he was calling.
This has been my number one thing, Matt. Talent. You can't look at Caleb Williams and say he's not talented. When I look at Justin Fields, he's super talented. I don't question his work ethic or his desire or leadership.
Yeah.
I don't know with Caleb on that.
I would agree. And that's why when you asked me those questions tonight about what I would do, and when I said I'd ask him and I would see what my coaches think, because of that maturity, the way he's handled this.
Yeah.
He's handled this extraordinarily well. And I remember, Phil, when they drafted him and how much of a fan you were of him as a worker and what he was going to put forth. So doesn't mean that that's the answer to everything, but that's why it makes this an incredibly hard decision, because Caleb Williams, wanting a cut of ownership, it doesn't hurt, as having a negotiator in my family, it never hurts to ask. It never hurts to ask, as they say.
Right.
But at the same time, was that realistic? And if you're insistent on something like that,
it's not even legal.
It's not legal. They backpedaled on that. And the father tends to worry you.
Yeah.
A little bit, because the father continues to speak on the son's behalf. You might have that. What are those basketball brothers in the NBA with the weird dad?
Yeah.
The balls.
The balls, yes.
You got one in Chicago that can't play.
You don't want that kind of shit.
And so I mean, that's the thing.
But that's where you're making your money as a GM. It's not even breaking down the talent sometimes, Matt. It's finding out who the kid is. Does he? If you're QB1, you have to not almost be able to not live without football.
Yeah,
you need it.
Yeah,
you do crave it.
You do,
and I love the game
because Justin, Todd Marinovich could have been easily a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback in terms of talent, but he didn't want it.
He didn't love the game.
He didn't love the game for good reason.
His father made him love it.
Yeah, for good reason. But
Right.
Now, if I'm going to make a decision like a lot of NFL owners, I'll just end it this way. I'm taking Justin Fields because he's from Georgia.
Yeah.
He's a Georgia boy, and Georgia boys know how to play football.
Yeah.
That's the way that's how I'd end it. But
Eric S. Yadazaka. Guys, what's Harbaugh's coaching superpower? Is it the quarterback whisperer, strategic guru, defensive guru? Are we sure GMs trust giving Harbaugh any type of powers? Well, I've said this many times.
Well, it would never be the GM giving him the powers anyway. It would be the fucking owner agreeing to say you're going to be
guy.
And
he picks the GM. I believe Jim Harbaugh would fix everything in Justin Fields, and there'd be a fucking rainbow at the end of that. That's just me looking at Jim Harbaugh, the coach. His superpower is he's a great communicator. He's empathetic. He has a screw loose when it comes to the amount that he loves football just as much as he loves his own family. And
how he manages an organization and gives who he's going to empower, who he's going to delegate, and trust, and who he's going to pick to do the work to carry out his vision.
Well, and he's connected to the organization where he knows where some of the skeletons are hidden. That's the part that I think that they need in Chicago, where he can say, George, shut the fuck up. Just go sit up in your suite and let me handle this. And that's what they have not had.
You mean he remembers what he did when he ran into him in the locker room and he saw him with the, with the football helmet and the jock strap, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But that's
George was selling tickets at that time.
But I mean, it's some of the stories with this organization are just, fucking Richard Dent showing up to a lunch and walking up to get some food. And they said, Richard, you didn't prepay yesterday. It's $15. Fucking Richard Dent. I mean, can you imagine? You're not on the list to eat. Richard, this was a separate thing. You didn't prepay. It's Richard fucking Dent, dude.
Super Bowl MVP at that time, too.
This is coming. This isn't bullshit. This is
Chris
coming.
Zorich tells the story.
Came right from Chris Zorich. He's like, can you fucking a fucking spaghetti dinner, Matt?
Chris paid his $15, mind you. So he's
the spaghetti probably wasn't even worth $5.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. But I mean, can you imagine a fucking Super Bowl MVP, Hall of Famer? You didn't prepay your $15 for this meal?
This is the Bears organization. I know they're trying. Again, there's hope with Kevin Warren. The McCaskies, there is no hope. They've surrounded themselves with penny pushing politicians and political decisions based on whatever's going to get them the most money. When you have legitimately, there's maybe 5 franchises.
So your best hope is that they're dumb enough to hire someone who's going to bully their asses and make them afraid because they know he's got enough media pull that if he goes out in front of there and humiliates their asses, that they're going to have to just toe the line and stop bitching and moaning.
Matt,
that's what the hope
do you remember Mike Ditka? That's what he did.
Yeah.
That's what I've been saying for about 10 years and all of the years on this show. They need someone who's going to do exactly what you said. Hold them accountable, their feet to the fire.
Well, that's generally the case when you look at top teams. Every team has either a coach, a GM, or a quarterback is who does that. We look at Brady in hindsight, and you look at all those weeks that Tom Brady is just tearing a new asshole out of Josh McDaniel over and over again. And I mean, I don't know what's actually being said, okay? But when I'd watch it, I'd always imagine this. It was, who the fuck are you to yell at me? You don't know what you're fucking talking about. All you do is carry Bill's water when he tells you to. I'm the fucking coach of this offense. Don't fucking tell me you're not on the field. I know what's good. You just shut up and let me do what I need to do. If you don't put this guy in here when I tell you to put this guy in here, we're going to have a problem. You want me to take this to Bill? Who do you think he cares about more right now? Me or you?
Right.
Because you're just the coach that's just quit, who's been fired and who quit before he even started one time.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like I could see
Colts, yeah.
Brady doing that. And when Josh McDaniel decides to like rear up and say, "Hey, I'm a coach, you know, here, listen to me. Here's my ego. I'm feeling kind of proud. Let me try and boss around Tom." And Tom going, "Yeah, fuck you. You don't know how this works." You know, I could totally see that happening. But players like that, because like, you know, Jim McMahon, you know, when they drafted his ass and Ditka would basically try and coach him, and there were certain things that he didn't agree with. I mean, you know it better than I do. I'm paraphrasing probably incorrectly, but I love Jim McMahon as a player.
Yeah.
And, you know, for him, what I remember was him essentially saying, "We run a fucking Mickey Mouse offense here, and fuck you, this is what I'm going to do." Yeah. And eventually Ditka was like, I'm going to kind of shut up and let him leave me alone. You know, it's like, and Hallis going in on him at the very beginning, and McMahon just kind of giving it to him back a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, we need that.
You need
quirky fucking desire to win at all costs, to shut out. You have to shut down the politics.
Yeah.
You can't let it invade your team. And let's be honest, I think if the summary of this show tonight would be the amount of misinformation and people that aren't qualified to make decisions but have had the money or the power to be put in a situation to do it has failed many of a franchise. Many of them. And the Bears have been the epitome showcase of some. I mean, it is, if Chicago, the Bears rather, not Chicago, the Bears are a casino, if you will. There is no letdown in the amount of money they're going to make, because Bears fans travel, they love it, and they should. Everything about the Bears is awesome. What ruins the Bears are the owners and the decisions they've made.
The Bears should be, listen, I'm biased, I know. I believe that I'm a fan of a team in the best division in football. I believe that the AFC North is the most physical division in football. It's old school. It still has traces of old school, kick your ass,
right?
You know, play hard, coach hard type of black and blue football. The Chicago Bears have always belonged. When the Bears are good, football is right. Yeah. I always believe when the Bears and the Raiders are good,
Madden would say that.
You know, and that's, well, then maybe that's what it is. All those years listening to him.
No, my dad said it. Yeah. John Madden said it.
It just feels right when these teams are that good, and the Bears have that mentality. The Lions are bringing back that mentality. I know Goff may not be great outside, but you think of, you know, my buddy Brandon Angelo, who I have a show with that I have on every other week, who's a Chicago native. Yeah. And who is a performance specialist working with athletes, and a former running back, former Big Ten running back and track athlete. Nice. You guys would want to have him on the show. He's good. He's Brandon will tell you, he's like, you know, the Lions are built to win outdoors with that run game, and that, you know, and you can see what they're doing. And I loved hearing that. To me, there's a brand, you know, and the Bears are part of that brand. You know, you look at that.
That's the formula.
Yeah,
that the Bears should embrace.
Yeah, we're gonna
chase. Let's chase Green Bay and do this. No,
we're gonna kick your ass.
We're gonna kick your ass with defense and run the ball. And listen, Justin could fit into that.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
Without a doubt, that would be embracing Justin, the power run game, action off of it, 5-step drop off action, max protect, 2-man route, let him go. This is the stuff that We don't see it. We see fucking empty set on 3rd and 1.
I would be. That's why and again, that's one of the reasons why it's so hard for me to say to let go of Justin Fields, because I look at that and go, if it were my team, I'm gonna challenge Detroit to a street fight.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna say I'm gonna get
The
there.
Bears beat them.
You got it. I'm glad you got a head start, but we're fucking Chicago. I'm gonna make up ground fast on your ass because I already got. You mean on
4th and 1, you're not going to hand the ball off to DJ Moore when you have Justin Fields in the back as your quarterback? They just did that.
They just
did that.
Yeah. I'll say this: I'll hand it off to Moore if I've got the line to do it, and he's in the backfield running north-south because he's a fucking running back who runs great routes.
Yeah,
but I'm not running them laterally. Is that what they did? One of those fly sweep deals?
What they did was fake the tush push,
and then
thought they'd get cute and ran a wide receiver toss. They tossed it to him.
These are moves that every fan knows. Is that this is the thing that old time coaches would say when you run a trick play? They often would say it early, like Tom. I think it was who was it? Howard Schnellenberger when Miami played Nebraska.
Yeah.
And Nebraska had tried that fumble Ruski thing that they did in the Orange Bowl. Schnellenberger apparently said before the game, we'll likely have a good shot of winning, especially if Nebraska's scared enough to run their little trick play early in the game, because that shows they don't believe they can really win without resorting to deception. And that's they know they're outmanned. And I think that's when you see plays like that, fans know the difference between you're being tricky and it's a good, timely deception that works and you're being smart, and when you're just wimping out.
Yeah, I call it sheer stupidity what they did. And it's no, I'm serious. It's like you're sitting there as a fan or a coach and you're saying, please just run it up the middle with a 235-pound running back, or please give your 230-pound quarterback.
You only have the very first drive of game 1 this year. They get to
Green Bay.
They get to the 50. They get to 4th and inches, and they fucking hand the ball off. They snap the ball to fucking Cole Kmet.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
And Justin Fields is your quarterback.
And in contrast, you're the Cleveland Browns. You already have Nick Chubb, before he got hurt. And you're taking Nick Harris, the former, I think, All-American center at Washington, and putting him at fullback in the backfield, going, if you want to get tricky, do that. Supersize your run game.
Jumbo the packet. How about trick you with fucking power?
Yeah, more like doubling down on
think about it. We just talked about Ditka.
Yeah.
He put the fridge in at fullback, gave him the motherfucker at 338 pounds or whatever he was.
And they're still using Nick Harris to this day in the backfield.
Exactly.
You're going to see it probably on Sunday in short yardage at the goal line where they put Nick Harris in there as their fullback.
That'll be the fucking walk-off at the end of the game.
Yeah,
we'll get to this, Mr. Englewood. $2. We appreciate you. Obviously,
$2.
We've run a late night schmoo. Look at this guy giving us some love here, Greg. Happy birthday again. You're probably one of the great guys, Greg. God bless you. I will write you a great birthday, and I'm sorry that
he's up late because he's mad the Cubs weren't in on Ohtani. That's why he's losing all his sleep.
Well, real quick, and then we're going to wrap up the show. You're a Browns fan, and it happened completely coincidental. So I know we're some of the best guys, and I believe that too. Thank you, Greg. But we didn't even put that together. We just coincidentally, I'm not afraid to tell the truth, had Matt Waldman, Browns fan, on the show leading up to the Browns game. So prediction, Matt, real quick. Bears versus Browns this Sunday. Who do you got? What do you got? Score.
I'm going to say 23-20. And I think we're going to go. Man, that's a tough one because I can see it going either way. With this, I'm going to say Cleveland just because I think Cleveland believes in Flacco, and I believe that they've been playing pretty well. Flacco spread the ball around in a way that the Browns have not seen in quite some time, and there's enough weapons to make do there that I think it'll be good. And with everything going on from what you guys and we've been talking about in the past, 4 hours or however long, 3 hours, 35 minutes. Yeah. I think maybe I wonder if, the team is feeling the same thing.
There you go. 23-20 says Mr. Waldman. If you're listening,
fuck yourself.
I didn't mean to hit that. My bad.
I don't give a fuck about that numbers guy. What the
fuck? I know I missed that
tall
guy.
motherfucker. What's he doing anyway? Why isn't he on the show?
Cars, I know.
Cars, we be
I
trying.
did text him. He is a big Penix fan, so I texted him.
There
He's
you
like,
go.
I knew I loved that guy for a reason. I told him that Waldman was all in on him.
I like Penix. I do.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I like you. I
Well, I
thank
like
you
you
so
too.
much for your time. You came here.
Is that a like or just a I like you? Phil?
No, I love Matt
I know.
Waldman, honestly. I was just trying to make a great segue because I know how tired all three of us are. But I wasn't even expecting to go this late. But that's how this show is. You never know. There's no script.
How fucked up our team is. You can.
Shane, do you have a prediction? Bears, Browns, quick.
I do. Yes. Browns 24, Chicago 16.
There you go.
Yep.
I also have a prediction. Browns 17, Bears 12. 17-12.
Hugo.
Throwing that up. I want to be wrong again. Last week I picked the Lions. The Bears won. So maybe this is my effort.
There he is.
There he is.
Yep. He doesn't give
He's
a fuck.
sleeping. He's like,
He's mad because his Grant Delpit is hurt.
Yeah.
That's his
7-6 says Rich
inspirational.
Gordon. That would be epic.
It's
Yeah,
better.
right.
It's better than 3-0. Right.
3-0. I couldn't believe it. I was hoping it would end in a 0-0 tie. That was my favorite thing. 21-17, 20-12. Yes, I got all field.
At least y'all
Field
know
goal.
who's listening that I'm not pandering to y'all, just trying to
Right.
predict Bears.
No,
because I'm on
exactly.
the show.
You've
You
never done that. And
No.
you'll be on again and more often as
We'll talk more draft, and
Yes,
actually
more
look at some
draft.
players like we've done in the past.
It's going to be fun. We'll bring some tape.
We'll have Waldman on after the Bears pick at number 1 and just hope he doesn't say, "Oh, Jesus Christ."
He's a fucking great gadget
Bayless
player.
Jones.
Bayless Jones. Will
That
go down
almost-
into me.
That
was
killed me that
rough.
night.
That killed me too.
Yeah.
I was like, you
tough.
gotta be fucking kidding me.
This is
You
what
know.
Ryan Poles thought it was going to be right here.
Good.
Well, it could be worse. I said that Daniel Jones was a fraud of a pick when they announced him getting drafted.
Yeah.
He's played better, but he's
I
not
don't
it.
think you're far off.
He ain't it. And I meant it as that he's not a fraud, but
Yeah.
that was another story. That's another story.
You think that they'd like to have that contract back?
Well, the scouts were split in the scouting community. Some thought he was a Peyton Manning protege type because of the coach, who coaches at Duke. But what they didn't realize, and what the Duke staff said, was that if you inquired a little bit further, you would have known that the head coach no longer was really coaching his quarterbacks at the same degree and involvement that he had when he was with the Mannings.
Yeah.
And so saying that he was, what was his name? Cutcliffe, David Cutcliffe,
David
that he
Cutcliffe.
was a Cutcliffe quarterback didn't really have the same meaning to it that it had in the past. But Duke was rolling with it because it draws prospects. They can
And
recruit better.
Scouting, recruiting,
Yep.
getting more
Shady
attention.
business.
So to me, that was the fraud. Not that Jones was a
The
fraud.
problem was Daniel Jones made that late playoff run. They got handicapped or imprisoned by the popularity. I'm just setting this up. If the Bears do what Shane said, and now you got to give this Justin Fields a new contract. That's the stuff you have to.
So if Danny Dimes is catchy, can Danny Dollars be ironic?
That's pretty much. I remember being on the show talking
He's
about.
a very nice dick that any woman would love.
Yes, that's what he was. You were there to witness that.
Yeah.
And I started laughing at the same moment that it was said. And I saw myself smiling, and I go, "Wait a minute! I'm not wearing a hat."
I love all.
Tell him, Cherie.
Hey, Cherie, it's been very quiet in the background.
She passed out when she heard Waldman was a fan of Blaine Gabbert.
She liked
we all have our
Bortles.
mistakes.
She was
That's right. She was Bortles. I always forget that. I always
there
fuck
she
that up.
is. Bring her back. Look at her hair. She's looking so lively. It's a long show, Cherie. Thank you
Yes.
for producing.
Oh shoot! I didn't even realize it was after midnight.
I got it up.
Just Claude.
Yes, we've hit past midnight. It is now the 14th of December. The Chicago Bears are getting prepared to play the Cleveland Browns. Shane and I will be doing something different, Matt. We will be live reacting to the game on Sunday. We've never done this before, so
and you'll never do it again.
Probably not.
Oh, we talked about that. Yeah, we're gonna try to.
This is a big test run, Shane.
Yeah.
So,
good luck.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll
how that
see
goes.
how it plays out. You want to join us? We'll be live for Bears Packers this Sunday here on TTNL. All of you guys will be involved. And then, of course, Bears Hour Live right after it. Will you be doing Cars Keys? Yes, tomorrow night.
Yep. Well, if we're not still
Speaking
on
of
the
that
air
guy.
for this fucking show, yeah, it's supposed to air tomorrow night.
Hey, I can't thank you enough. To all you fans, no special segments. We've done a lot of talk about Justin Fields, the Bears, and the quarterback class, and how to build a franchise.
Yeah.
Bears, Packers. No.
Should we just close it out with Jackal and get out of here?
Yes.
Yeah, here we go.
Close it out with Jackal. We'll see you all. Thank you, Matt Waldman. Kerry Franklin, thank you. Shout out to Greg Braggs.
Yeah, see you later. Good night, everybody.
For his